Hello collective, welcome to my channel. This reading is titled New Year, Who Dis? How will you be stepping into your power in 2024 and beyond? So this reading is going to be split into two main sections. Firstly, you will pick a pile. This is pile number 1 with the black crystal heart, pile number 1. Pile number 2 is the yellow crystal heart. This is pile number 2. And this is pile number 3 with the pink crystal heart. Please feel free to pause the video if you would like to take a minute or two to reflect on which pile your intuition is calling you to. If you are feeling disconnected from your intuition today and you are unsure which pile to pick, you can always use a random number picker online to choose a pile for you. Do not worry if you feel like you have chosen the wrong pile. I realise that these are collective readings and they are not necessarily going to resonate for everyone. If you pick a pile and you are realising partway through that the story does not belong to you, that it is not your narrative, then please feel free to pick a different pile. If you are finding that none of the piles resonate for you, that is more than okay. There are plenty of other readings out there for you. Perhaps this is not your reading, but you can always return to it at a different stage in your life. These readings are timeless, regardless of whether you listen to it at the beginning of 2024 or at the end or beyond. This reading is intended to be timeless, so you can always return to it when you are at a different phase in your life and when you feel like some of the messages might resonate more. If even just one small thing from one of the readings resonates with you, then please tell me, because I would be so happy to know that my reading has helped even just one person in a small way that might seem insignificant. It is not insignificant to me. I would be very grateful for any support, any feedback. Please just remember to be gentle and respectful in the comments. Although tarot has been a part of my life for many years, I have never had the experience of putting myself out there like this. This is very new to me. The only experience I have of any kind of filming or using any kind of equipment is back in the day when we all used to be chatting on MSN, on using an old blurry webcam. So I am very new to using technology. I am sure that I will have made mistakes in this video in regards to editing. There are a couple of points in the reading where I have noticed that the camera has gone a little bit out of focus, in particular when I have tried to show the astro dice, so I am very sorry about that. All I can ask is that you are patient with me because I am still learning and it will take me a while to get to grips with that aspect of filming and of delivering the message. Okay, so once you have selected your pile, each pile will be split up into two main sections, with the first section being an energy check / oracle read. And in the oracle read, we are going to look into what has been holding you back, what has been keeping you from stepping in to your full power and accessing that full power. We are also going to be rolling the astro dice for a little bit more confirmation of the energy you are embodying currently and how you can go forward with that energy. The tarot portion, which is the next portion of the reading, again, all of this will be in the timestamps in the description. That will be more focused on how you can step into this power and how your life will be transforming in the year 2024 and beyond. We will also close each pile's reading with a little bit of advice from one of the oracle cards. In regards to any decks used within this reading, I will link all the oracle cards used in the description. I will be using the same tarot deck for each of the piles. That is the Good Karma Tarot, and I will also link that below. Some oracle decks that I own have been gifted to me by friends and family throughout the years, so I might not be able to pinpoint where I got my exact deck from, but I will try and locate a link so that you are able to purchase the same deck. Without further hesitation, if you have selected your pile, I'm now going to get into the reading and we're going to move along into pile 1. Thank you very much for all your support. I appreciate any comments. If you like my style of content and it resonates with you, please subscribe to my channel, please like the video. Any engagement would be absolutely amazing for me. As I say, I am extremely new to this and I appreciate all the support I can get. And I thank you very much for any support that you are willing to give me. And I really hope you enjoy the reading. If you do, please let me know in the comments. Thank you so much. See you in your reading. Hi pile 1, welcome to your reading. If you have chosen the Black Crystal Heart, this will be your reading. The oracle cards are pre-shuffled, and we are going to go ahead and look at those oracle cards, but also do an energy check with the oracle cards and with the astro dice. Not only will we be doing the energy check, but it is also to see, we'll try to clarify what is holding you back, and then hopefully when we move on to the tarot portion, we will see who you are going to become in this upcoming year. Who is the new you? How are you stepping into your power? We will go ahead and look at that. So let's get started with these oracle cards. Make sure you have a hydration source next to you because I don't know how long these readings are going to be. I'm just going to see and take it one step at a time. So without further hesitation, let's have a look at your oracle cards for the upcoming year. So we have number 18, Blue Pink Gill Rarity. We have Battle. We have Conceal. We have number 17, Create Art. We have Earth Mother. We have Expectations. Number 12, Don't Seek Anyone's Approval. Number 20, we have Fears. We have Am I Communicating My Needs? We have A New Romantic Cycle Begins. New Moon in Libra. And we have number 18, Stimulation, Chilly. Okay, let's just put those here. Okay, pile 1. So just looking at these cards, the first thing that I'm kind of sensing is that you are somebody who has a lot of introverted energy. With this battle card, that could be interpreted as a battle with yourself, a battle with your own mind, your own emotion. And as well with the conceal, it kind of says that you're hiding, you're repressing a lot of feelings, a lot of emotions. As well, with this stimulation card, one of the messages that I'm getting is that it could go one of two ways. You could be somebody who seeks out a lot of stimulation via the external world in order to sort of push down these emotions and this internal turmoil that's occurring in your mind. You could be somebody who constantly feels the need to be doing something, to be productive. That could be at work, or it could just be in terms of creating relationships with people. It could be that you always have to have like something on in the background. You have to be watching a TV show, you have to be listening to music, you have to be playing a game, you have to be doing like 5 different things at the same time in order to keep that constant state of stimulation, in order to sort of avoid these deeper feelings and emotions that you're not feeling, but that you can sense. I also get the sense that you might be somebody who, if it's not you require constant stimulation, it's that you are somebody who becomes very overstimulated by the external world and you need a lot of time to retreat, you need a lot of downtime. You could identify as being neurodivergent. That does not have to be the case at all. And if you don't identify with that label, if that doesn't resonate, that's fine. You could just be somebody who struggles with overstimulation. Like, for example, if you might really struggle if you go out shopping and it's busy, and you know, especially this time of year, you might really struggle with things like, I mean, I know a lot of people in our sort of age groups order things online now, and like a lot of things, a lot of presents we might get. If you are an introverted person, you would probably do that online. But I'm just sensing that you might struggle going out into shops and interacting with a lot of new, different people. And when places get busy, you might really struggle being around that. You might struggle being in busy places, is what I'm trying to say, in a kind of roundabout way. And I think a lot of it, this overstimulation or the need to be constantly stimulated, I think it stems from your deeper fears. Your deeper fears that perhaps you aren't even aware of at this stage. With the Am I Communicating My Needs card, I get the sense, as well as actually the new moon in Libra as well, the Libra energy coming from the cards and the Am I Communicating My Needs makes me think that you haven't always been a person who has felt comfortable communicating their needs. You might be somebody who feels like it will be too much trouble for other people if you were to communicate your authentic self and your authentic needs, and that has held you back and made you conceal a lot of your authentic self from other people. Libra always makes me think, like, obviously Libra, all signs have their positive sides and their more like shadow aspects, if you will, but I often do think of people pleasing in regards to Libra. It does make me think of people pleasing energy at times when that Libra energy is out of balance in some way. It makes me think of somebody who is passive about their own needs, is maybe overgiving. There isn't that harmony in relation to their emotional needs. And with this conceal card in particular, it makes me think of something that is being, it makes me think of a wound, like that is literally the imagery, is of a plaster or a band-aid, if that's what you call it. So it's like just covering the deeper wound up with a plaster, a band-aid, but the wound is still there. So it's like something inside you that needs healing and needs to feel seen and heard. It's like you're not communicating your needs, you're just putting a plaster over the needs, and people don't know. That's a part of yourself that's hidden, and people don't know this unless you tell them. People can't read your mind, they don't know what your needs are. You're hiding it based on some false belief that you think you will be penalised if you express these beliefs. And that could come down to something that you've experienced in the past. With these cards, the battle and the rarity, that's making me think of somebody who at one point or another in their life felt a sense of being othered for whatever reason. And again, it could come, like, if you do identify with that label of being neurodivergent, if you have ADHD, or you identify as having autism or anything like that, it could be that when you were growing up, your authentic self was penalised, or that's how it felt, because you maybe didn't pick up on certain, I don't want to say social cues, but because you felt different and you expressed yourself in a way that was different or more unique to how other people around you were expressing themselves, it felt as though you could have been picked on for that. It could have been from a family member who, you know, expressed that they weren't happy with the way you were expressing yourself to the world in general, or it could have been within an institutional setting like a school. You could have been singled out by friendship groups at school, by people who will bully you for this sense of difference. But if it's not something like neurodivergence, for example. It could be that the area that you grew up in, maybe you were part of one culture and it seemed as though everybody else was part of this other culture, and they didn't understand you altogether and you didn't understand them altogether, but for some reason you were made to feel strange or odd, or like you need to repress your genuine self. It could be like you belong into an ethnic group, an ethnic minority that was different to other people in your area. It could be in regards to your sexuality. Obviously, only take those details if they do resonate. If not, feel free to ignore it. It could even just be, and I don't know if other people will be able to relate to this, but if you grew up in Britain and you were at high school in the early 2000s, it could be that you were singled out for being part of a quote unquote subculture. So, for example, like if you even had the audacity growing up to wear like a black wristband on your wrist, or Converse trainers, which, you know, everybody wears now and it's just completely normal. But if that was you growing up in a UK high school, you were probably called, like, you were probably singled out and identified as like the emo kid or something like that. And maybe you still are a little bit. Maybe you identify with being that emo kid, because as you know, it's never really a phase. It's never a phase. It's not just a phase. So yeah, that could be you, and it could be that because of those experiences, when you were at a younger age, you always felt this sense of difference and of not quite belonging to a group that you were surrounded by. Again, it could be friends, it could be family, it could be school, it could just be like the greater community at large. And it could even be that this is something that you have carried on into your current workplace. If you are working around other groups of people, it could be that you lack confidence and that a lot of your energy is focused on meeting people's expectations, on people pleasing, and on fitting in to a certain degree. But because perhaps that doesn't come naturally to you and you've concealed so much of yourself over these years, perhaps it is a struggle, and by the end of the day you feel absolutely exhausted just trying to keep on top of this way of being that isn't really you. And again, like, the battle card is sort of calling to me with these birds fighting. It kind of feels like this could be, I feel as though this might represent the duality of you. So for example, this bird here, I don't know why, but this image is coming to my head of you meeting a new group of people and establishing a friendship with them, and maybe getting a little bit of confidence to expose a little bit more of your true self. So you're almost like stepping your toe in the water tentatively. For example, you could tell a joke and to this group and you're not quite sure how it's going to be received. You're not sure if they have that exact same sense of humour as you, and the joke could be perceived as a little bit offbeat or something like that, but you tell it anyway. And this could be, in terms of that duality, this could be the other side of you penalising you for having done that and being like, why have you just done that? Why have you made this joke? What if it all goes wrong? What if they think you're really weird after having made that joke? And just thinking that it'll all go wrong and that you won't be able to maintain these friendships now that they have seen some of the real you. And again, I feel like that comes back. It could be like this group currently, they might have not done anything to make you feel that way. Maybe some people get the joke, maybe some people don't get the joke, but you still feel as though you should be punished in a way for having made that joke. You should be punished for revealing that aspect of yourself that you hadn't previously revealed. You feel like you will be punished for it. and you feel as though you're going to lose people based on this little snippet of your genuine self that has come out. You feel like it is going to lead to you losing those friendships, and not being able to hold on to them. And again, that reverts back to the deeper wounds that you have with self-acceptance. It might take you back to a time in your childhood when you felt, again, like you were othered, you felt like you didn't belong, you felt like you were going to be put down if you behaved in a way that was slightly different to the other people around you. And sort of this way of, trying to fit in to meet other people's expectations, it could just be a defense mechanism that you've learned over time based on this. It could be that it feels safer to be more introverted and sort of scope out a group before you reveal any aspect of your true self, because you just feel as though if you were authentic, it would lead to immediate rejection, which might not be the case. But again, this is something you have carried with you. So yeah, like the battle card definitely makes me think of more of an internal battle. It also makes me think, I don't know why this is coming to my mind, but the meme where it says like, oh God, why are you giving me your hardest battles? And it's like, you are my weakest soldier. It's just an email. Why are you crying? That's what it kind of reminds me of. And I'm not at all undermining your feelings, because honestly, like, if you relate to that, then same. I have definitely struggled also with people-pleasing tendencies and with feeling that way, so I do completely understand. I am not undermining it in any way, but I'm just saying that a lot of this battle you are facing isn't with other people, it's with you, it's with yourself, it's the things that you are presuming about other people based on past behaviour, based on past experiences, which we all do. But there needs to come a time when you stop this, so that you are able to express more of yourself and really do what you want, rather than always considering other people and their expectations. There seems to be a little bit of synchronicity with the numbers on the cards. I noticed that there are a lot of teens. So we have an 18 here, we have 12, we have 20, we have another 18 here, we have 17 here. So those could be significant numbers for you, perhaps in relation to age. You could be around that age now and experiencing these issues now, or it could just be that when you were around those ages, is when you struggled most, or when the issues first sort of came up in your life. Because I feel like as well, when you are those ages, you always have adults in your life telling you that you have nothing to worry about and you have no real problems and you better sort of enjoy life, because this is the happiest you're ever going to be. Like, teen years are the best years of your life. They're not, by the way. Your teen years are not the best years of your life. And that could have been a message that got you down, because if you were experiencing these issues around that age and you were sort of, this is the other thing as well, I get the sense that you are somebody who carries the weight of the world on your shoulders needlessly. That is, I'll go on to that in a minute. That is what I am feeling. But it could be that you had someone in your life sort of telling you, yeah, you don't have any real problems, this is the best things are ever going to get. And you were struggling so much already with those kind of identity issues, those people-pleasing tendencies, that inability to feel like you fit in. And that sort of message could have really gotten you down. And it could have made you sort of dread thinking, well, I don't know, let's say there was an instance when you were around this age, 17, 18, 19, 20, that kind of age where you put yourself out there in some significant way and you did not get the reaction that you wanted. You got a reaction that made you feel othered. It made you feel rejected. It made you feel like, well, I'm never doing that again. That could be something that is still with you, that you have taken with you, and it could have, even to this day, made you feel as though you are never going to put yourself out there again like that. Again, these fears based on previous communication, previous interactions with people, that is very much a thing that is holding you back, and other people's expectations of how you should be. And it could have crossed over just with the romantic cycles card and the am I communicating my needs. This could have crossed over into your romantic relationships as well. It could be that you are somebody who feels as though if you reveal too much of your needs or yourself, again, you will be rejected and you will not be able to have a romantic relationship. You feel like if I'm too much trouble, if I'm too much work, if I say this, if I ask for this, then that person will break up with me. That person won't like me anymore. They will see that I am needy or clingy in some way, and that is not how I want to. You could present as more nonchalant in romantic relationships than what you actually are. You could do, but again, like, you're not doing it for you deep down. You're doing it because you don't want to put the other person out. That is sort of what I'm getting at, because you feel as though you feel as though all love is conditional. It's like you have to be perfect, you have to be happy in order to be loved, truly. And of course, love should come with conditions. If somebody is mistreating you, if somebody is being abusive, if somebody does not align with you anymore in that sense, love should be conditional in the sense that you should be able to leave that relationship without harm coming to you, without you feeling guilty. You should be able to do that. But in your case, I feel as though it's not like you're asking the world of this person. It could be a little tiny thing and you're overthinking it to the extent of, like, I don't know, let's say you struggle with anxiety or something like that, and you really struggle if your romantic partner doesn't text you throughout the day. And I'm not saying like all the time, obviously people have jobs, people don't always have their phones with them. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about, somebody just, they haven't contacted you for hours and you just want them to reach out and say, hey, I'm a bit busy at the moment, but I'll catch up with you later, or something like that. You could be asking for more communication. That is just one example. It does not have to be that at all, but that could be playing on your mind. And instead of asking for it, you are thinking to yourself, if I ask for that, this person might think I'm really needy. This person might think that I'm too much. It might put them off me. Instead of really forefronting the things that you value and the things that you need. And in most cases, if a person is a good person, if they have good intentions, they will be more than willing to listen to you when you ask for your needs to be met. They will be more than willing to listen to you in that way, because somebody who cares about you, they are more than willing to make tiny sacrifices. That's the thing. You might be asking for something that's minimal, a minimal amount of effort, and you build it up in your head as if you're asking for the world, and as if that will make that person reject you, when it really, really won't. That is something that you're projecting based on past issues. And again, like, if you have had those past issues with a romantic partner, they treated you the way that you let them. They only treated you that way because you let them. And don't get me wrong, I know there are situations of abuse, situations where you feel like you cannot leave a situation. I'm not necessarily talking about that. I'm talking about you repeatedly undermining your own needs and you repeatedly not communicating those needs to a partner. because again, you can't expect somebody to read your mind. Everybody comes into relationships with their own wounds, their own ways of doing things, their own boundaries, and they don't know your boundaries unless you tell them. But it could be in the instance of a previous relationship, if you were you could have just let them get away with too much, and instead of being mad afterwards at them, you were mad at yourself because you didn't set those boundaries in place. And a part of you didn't feel worthy of setting those boundaries because of ways that you've been treated in the past and the way that you have been made to feel rejected by people in your past. What I said earlier in regards to you sort of carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders, I get the sense that because you grew up being made to feel different in these ways, I get the sense that that has helped develop your sense of empathy. I get the sense that you are an extremely sensitive person. And that makes me feel as though you do struggle sometimes with shutting off, and you might feel exhausted by the outside world and by things like the news. Knowing what's going on in the world can sometimes weigh very, very heavily on you. That's what I'm sensing. You might feel as though it's your responsibility to take on all of the world's suffering, and it's not. And I don't mean to say that we shouldn't be aware of what's going on in the world, but, and again, you are probably somebody who feels bad. If somebody said to you, well, you know, the news is getting you down, don't look at the news, you would feel guilty for that because you feel a sense of responsibility to have that awareness and understand what's going on in the world. Because again, you are taking on the burden of, you have the weight of the world on your shoulders. That is what I'm sensing. I just want to say that that is not your responsibility. And I don't mean that we should all be ignorant and shut out what's going on in the world. We do have to maintain awareness in order to hopefully help create change. But I'm just saying that that change isn't going to be accomplished by you feeling emotionally exhausted by this bombardment of information that you are taking in. Because if you've read so much terrible news that day that you're sat in your room in the dark with the door locked on the verge of a panic attack, you are not helping anyone. And I don't mean that in a way of that. I'm not trying to undermine anyone's mental health struggles. I struggle with panic attacks as well, so I understand that. I also struggle with doom scrolling and things like that. Trust me, I do understand. But you are not obligated to take in that content if you are not in the space to do so. And I know saying that comes with a lot of privilege. It is a privilege to be able to say, I am shutting off from this, because we have to understand that not everybody can shut off. The things that are going on in the world, the things that are happening, the people that are suffering, they are not able to shut off from these things. And yes, you are, and that is a privilege. But I think it's important to be able to use that privilege in order to do things actively, to be able to create that change and to be able to make the world a better place. Because again, if you are totally just exhausted by all this emotion, all these things that you're feeling for everybody in the world who is going through a hard time, then you are not able to be in your most authentic energy, and you are not able to create from a place of love or from abundance, because you are so stuck in the negativity and the anxiety. Because I do get the sense as well with the Create Art card, I get the feeling that you are somebody who is, in whatever way resonates, you are somebody who is very creative, and you have something that is very rare and unique to offer the world, but you are not always able to access those parts of yourself because you are so exhausted by all the negative content that you are consuming on a day-to-day basis that you can't access that part of yourself. And also, because of the way that you've repressed it in terms of interacting with the external world, whether that be at work in your day-to-day life, whether it was at school and you're just starting to, now that you've left school, you're rediscovering that part of yourself. Whichever one resonates for you, if any, there is a part of you that wants to be expressed, that wants to be seen, and wants to be heard. And it's like you feel as though if you express those parts of yourself, if you show an aspect of yourself, whether it be through your creativity or just in terms of your interactions with the world around you, whatever way, whatever channel you use to express that authentic version of yourself, I think what is holding you back is this sense of, I will not be accepted if I show that side of myself. I will not be loved. I will not be valued. What if I don't get other people's validation? And again, it comes from this place of not belonging. But I feel like you have so much to offer the world, so many unique ways of empowering people. And to some degree, I feel like, because I sense that you are a group who are very, very hard on yourself, very tough on yourself. You carry with you a lot of self-criticism, and you might experience a lot of negative self-talk on a day-to-day basis, and that could be something that you are currently working on. You could be working on getting out of that mentality, of improving it in some way. I feel as though that is something you are working on, but I feel as though you are quite down on yourself, because if you are interacting with somebody and you do something that you feel others might perceive as weird, you are somebody who would probably beat yourself up about that. So for example, like if you are at a restaurant and that thing where the waiter says like, oh, like enjoy your food, and you say you too, or something like that. It could be that is an interaction that you are then beating yourself up about for days when really nobody else is thinking about it. And as well, you are constantly in that state of thinking, oh, like, why can't I just be normal or like other people? But I need you to know that your rarity is your superpower, because nobody is able to deliver a message from the same lens that you can. And I feel like, going back to this create art card, that is something, whether you can incorporate your art into your day-to-day job, or whether you need to just look at creating some kind of art as a hobby or as a side business or whatever you want, it is very important for you to be able to express yourself. Because the rare insight that you have, the rare insight you can provide, is something that could change the world for the better. And I'm not saying like, oh, like you paint one picture of a tree and there's no more war. I don't mean that. I know that it's not as simple as that. And you might be thinking, my art, my creativity, what I put out into the world won't make that much of a difference. But if we think about all the things that unite humans, that unite people, it comes from a source of love. It comes from creativity. The music that bonds people, the artwork, the films, the TV shows, the books. Creativity unites people. So yeah, if you paint a picture, if you make a song, if you, I don't know, whatever you decide to do, whatever path you decide to go down, it might not suddenly cure world hunger, but it does have the power to unite people. It does have power behind it. And I think that is something you need to realise. I think that is something that potentially you have even concealed from yourself. You don't think that you have it in you because of this negative self-talk, because a lot of what you tell yourself is that you are just a bit weird or a bit socially inept, or you're never going to do something big in the world because you might struggle to put yourself out there like that. You might struggle with the fact that you are overstimulated, or that you need a lot of stimulation on the other hand, and that you might struggle to just sit in silence and create art. You might think that that is never a possibility for you, but it is. And I feel like going into this new year, that is something that's going to be a heavy focus for you, is stepping into your power by creating art. And as well, like, you might be somebody who what's the word, you might be somebody who has a lot of imposter syndrome. I think that's it, because you have felt so put down by certain people in your life in the past, and now you carry those wounds with you, that you have a lot of self-criticism and negativity directed towards yourself, directed inwards, that you can't envision a life where you are creating something that is meaningful and impactful for the world. You think, what is so special about me? This idea, it's been done before. That might be a common thing for you. You might have thought about putting an idea out there in the past, and then you've seen that somebody else has done something similar and it's knocked your confidence because of how you feel about yourself. You might have thought, well, they've put that idea out there now. Oh, well, that idea's done and it's gone, and they can do it way better. Like, people would probably just think I'm strange, or it's not as good if I put my idea out there. You might be somebody who thinks that way, but I'm telling you that because of your rarity, there is nobody who is better equipped to convey that idea than you, because although it could be an idea that other people have had to some degree, like the subject matter could be the same, let's say, but nobody can do it through your lens, because nobody has had your life experience. Nobody has your sense of empathy in the same way that you do. I guess you can think like, oh, like the idea of love songs, that's been done before. Well, yeah, but nobody's ever going to stop listening to love songs. People are always going to be drawn to certain subject matters, certain ideas, certain things that resonate with them, their emotions, and what you have experienced internally and externally. For some, what you have experienced gives you the capacity to be able to convey that message in a way that nobody before you has done, and that nobody after you can do, because you have a rare message that you can create through your art. That is what I'm getting. Just going back to like you potentially being somebody who feels the weight of the world on their shoulders, with this Earth Mother, you could have a lot of sensitivity for animals, even for plants. You could be a plant mother. Earth Mother is kind of giving me like Taurus energy. You don't have to be a Taurus. It could be a prominent placement in your chart, however, it might not be, and that is absolutely fine. Earth generally could be a predominant theme for you. But it just makes me think that like you feel bad for animals, that maybe animals don't always get the respect that they deserve. You could have an innate desire to nurture something, not necessarily like a child. If that is not for you, then don't take that. But you could have pets, you could really connect with animals, and you could also seek a lot of solace from nature, from being outside, from spending time with the earth. And that is maybe something to, if that does help you, is something to focus on in this upcoming year, is actually, and I know it's hard if you're in the UK and it just rains 97% of the time. I know that it is difficult to get out, but that could be something that you are being called to do in this upcoming year, and it could help ground you a little bit. and take your mind off these negative thoughts. You could be potentially finding a space that feels safer for you. Like, let's say you are somebody who's very overstimulated and you don't like going to places where there are a lot of people. You could be finding a safer space, a quiet walk where you are able to be alone with your thoughts, but also able to ground yourself. So your thoughts aren't the main focus. You are seeing, you are hearing, you are smelling, you are being one with the earth, and you are not necessarily thinking about everything you've ever done wrong in life. Because I get the sense that this group is that kind of person, where you are constantly replaying your alleged mistakes, you are constantly replaying every weird perceived slight or social interaction that you feel you have experienced. So yeah, definitely more grounding is needed for you, and more creating art, because I feel like your art, in whatever format that takes, is where your raw, authentic, real self, your rarity, your gift that you have to share with the world, I feel like that is where it will shine through. And that will be how you step into your true power. Okay, I know that was a very long energy check. The only other thing I'm going to do before we move on to the tarot and talk about how you can move forward with this new energy and this new insight is we are going to briefly look at the astro dice. So I was going to roll the astro dice on camera so you could see what it lands on. However, I rolled it before and I was recording just to kind of, I mean, evidently this is the first time that I'm filming a video or doing anything like this. So I was testing things basically, and I was just testing the astro dice, and I was called to keep it. So I was testing the astro dice and it landed on what I feel is the perfect representation of your energy. So I then couldn't roll it again because I just wanted to express this. The message that I was getting is that the planets that it's landed on has fit your energy and these cards so well that I couldn't then move it. I was like, right, I have to, express this message because this is what I'm getting. So for your astro dice, we have got Aquarius, and we have got fifth house, and we have got Saturn. So it could be that Capricorn or Aquarius are prominent placements in your chart. It does not have to be that way at all. But the reason that I felt as though these energies resonated with this pile so much is because it is literally that duality between Saturn and Aquarius. So if you think of the archetype of Aquarius placements are eccentric, they are free thinkers, they are forward thinkers, they are entrepreneurs, they are they are unique in very many ways. And if you think of Saturn is all about restrictions, it's about delays. The archetype of Saturn, it always reminds me of, like, let's say you have an Aquarius child and a Capricorn or a father ruled by Saturn. Aquarius might come to Saturn and say, like, oh, I've got this amazing idea, it's never been done before, I'm going to do this, I have like big dreams, these are what they are. And then Saturn will turn around and say, well, have you thought about this? And realistically, I don't know whether that is possible because X, Y, Z. And it's placing these restrictions, these delays on Aquarius. So if you think about how Aquarius just wants to think outside the box, wants to explore, wants to be eccentric, wants to be in that energy, and Saturn is holding it back. Saturn is talking about the limitations, the impositions, what might go wrong, and that is very much the duality within your mind, within your heart and emotions. That that says it all. Like, you are a free thinker. You embody all the traits of this Aquarius energy, whether you have strong Aquarius in your chart or not. The art you can create, it is forward thinking. It is different. It is something that the world hasn't seen yet and needs to see. But your own mind is thinking about, well, what if? And, you know, it's putting these impositions on you that don't necessarily need to be there. So the tarot, when I go into the tarot, I'm gonna hopefully try and give you some advice on how to get out of that mentality. Oh yeah, fifth house as well. Yes, this is the thing. Fifth house, it's about pleasure, it's about fun, it's a Leo house, I think. So confidence, self-assuredness, you have it in you. You have these gifts in you, but you are placing these impositions, these restrictions on yourself, and it is not allowing you to explore this fifth house energy, this creativity, this fun, your hobbies, even your inner child, if that resonates. So it all needs to come from you. The change needs to come from you. You need to go forward in this new energy with this ability to create without considering other people's expectations, because it was never about them. It was always about you. And with that being said, with that in mind, I am going to now move on to the second portion of your reading, which will be the tarot, and we can try and look into getting some advice going forward. Who are you becoming in this new year? Now that we have gone through what is holding you back, we are going to look at how to move forward and how you can access this power and step into it. So without hesitation, let's go into that. Hi Pile 1, if you are still here, I'm guessing that means that the oracle portion of your reading resonated and you are ready to move on to the tarot. So yeah, without hesitation, I'm just going to get on to the tarot portion of the reading. I'm using the Good Karma Tarot. I'll be using that for all of the readings, different oracle decks, but everybody will have the Good Karma Tarot. So I'm just going to go ahead and let's have a look at what you've got. Okay, you've got the Four of Cups. We've got the Ten of Swords. We've got Judgment. We have the Five of Swords. We have the Hermit, the Wheel of Fortune. We have the Ace of Wands. We have the Fool. We have the Eight of Coins. Just going to move them all up a little bit so that they're definitely on camera. We have the Six of Wands. And we have the Queen of Coins, which is the Queen of Pentacles, and the Sun. So, firstly, we have a lot of major arcana in this pile. And I promise you the tarot was shuffled very, very, very thoroughly. We're going to touch a little bit on energies that are holding you back. But the good thing is I can see from this reading that big, big, big changes are going to be made, and they're going to be made by you. You are going to be stepping into your power and making these changes for yourself. Loads of positive things are coming. So many positive things are coming that you aren't even aware of yet. And there is a lot of extremely positive energy here that I'm getting. But first, we have to go over, again, the things that are holding you back a little bit. We do have to touch on that again, because that is a part of the reading and it's a part of the progress that you are going to make. It's where you started and where you will end up, who you are becoming and how you are stepping into this power. Okay, so going into this new year, I can see that there is still a period of reluctance to take initiative on your part. there is a period with this Four of Cups of apathy, of contemplation, of not feeling entirely satisfied. And if you can see on the image, the cup is being handed to her, but she's not taking it. She is in her daydreams. She's in deep contemplation. She can't see that the cup is next to her and it's full and it's ready for the taking, because she is deep in her thoughts and deep in her contemplation. So it could be that you are deeply contemplating how to make a change, but there isn't a great deal of action taking place at that present moment. With also the Ten of Swords, that does talk of exhaustion. So as was mentioned in your oracle check, your energy check, you could still be feeling very tired, very overwhelmed, especially if you are repeating the same patterns of, for example, doom scrolling, or getting caught in those negative cycles, negative news cycles, or taking on too much, perhaps at work or just in regard to friends or family. If you are repeating those patterns and expecting to get different results, you're not going to get different results. And this does result in a feeling of exhaustion and of collapse in a way. It can represent collapse. So just feeling absolutely drained by it all. So with these two cards in particular, it makes me think, for example, if you have been fortunate enough to get some time off over Christmas and you have been able to contemplate these ideas of what you might do next, and you're thinking, right, I'm going to go into this new year, new perspective, it's going to shift, I'm going to go back into work with this new sense of motivation, and I'm not going to get exhausted again, I'm not going to get burnt out again, that's not going to happen to me. You could be thinking that, and then you've not taken action to pursue an endeavour that would help with this sense of exhaustion. So you go back into work, and then something happens and it hits you once again. You've been back a week or 2 weeks and it hits you that you are still exhausted, you are still sort of feeding into this negative energy, you are still in a self-victimization mindset, and you do not want to be there. But with this Judgment card, the good thing is this Judgment card offers clarity. So there is some sense of clarity coming. It's a kind of make or break moment where you take decisive action to be the version of yourself that you have been hiding, and to communicate your needs more. If you remember the communicate your needs card from the oracle, this Judgment card, it's making me think of that. And although I'm talking a lot about how this is a big step, and that is true, it is a big step for you, I don't think it necessarily has to be a massive thing. It could be a minor shift in the way you communicate your needs, something that takes you a lot of courage, but it helps something shift in your mind, and suddenly you have this sense of clarity, almost like an awakening, that, well, if I could do this and it didn't go badly and I got what I wanted, what else could I do? It opens that door for you thinking that not just bad things might happen when you communicate your needs. It doesn't always necessarily go in a negative way. And it could just be something as simple as you arranging a meeting with your boss or your supervisor or something like that, and telling them, do you know what, like, I feel like I'm doing too much overtime, I'm taking on too many shifts at the moment, and something needs to change. And you're expecting that to result in ruin. You're going into that expecting that your boss or your supervisor is going to think they are not a hard worker, I don't want them to represent this company, you're thinking they're gonna fire you or something like that. You're sort of escalating that situation. But it turns out that this person hears you, and it doesn't go as badly as how you think it's going to go. And it just proves to you that you can advocate for yourself, you can communicate your needs, and it doesn't always end in a horrible way. It's not the worst case scenario all the time. So that is a big thing for you, and it's a small thing, or it could be a small thing, but it opens up some potential of what else you could do. It opens the possibilities up of what else you can achieve, and that starts your trajectory into becoming this new version of you and stepping into your power. This year, I feel for you might entail of a lot of you talking yourself down from that negative self-talk that we mentioned in the oracle reading. It might force you to go inwards with this Hermit card. It might force you to go inwards and reflect on what it is that you are so fearful of when you communicate your needs, and what is it that you are so fearful of when it comes to you showing a part of your authentic self, whether that means putting artwork into the world or just being more you in social settings or in work settings, in romantic settings, anywhere really, whatever resonates. But you are going to, you know how we spoke in the oracle check about, I don't know why I keep calling it oracle check, oracle reading, about how you might struggle to sit in silence and be alone with your thoughts, or you might be very overstimulated, or you might need constant stimulation. This Hermit is forcing you to do that work. It's forcing you to sit alone with your thoughts and really consider what has been holding you back. Because this thing that happens, this thing where the outcome is positive with the Judgment card, and that sparking a new sense of purpose and a new awakening for you, that is making you reflect and think, well, why haven't I done this before? What has been holding me back? And with this Five of Swords, you recognize that a lot of it is due to the perceived sense of bullying or intimidation, and maybe criticism, because you criticize yourself so much. You are thinking about how it's such a struggle to put yourself out there, because you don't think you criticize yourself to the extent that you can't take anybody else's criticism or negativity, because there is not enough room in your brain for all that criticism, and you are scared of how you will be received. You are scared of being bullied for being different, for putting something out there that people perhaps don't resonate with, and instead they think you are strange. So this Hermit card, it's making you sit back. It's making you reflect inwards and think, why am I doing this to myself? Because nothing's happened yet. You haven't had the chance, you haven't had the opportunity to put yourself out in the world, to share your artwork, to share your creativity. That hasn't happened yet, and yet you're perceiving criticism which hasn't even occurred. So it's really considering why you are in that state of interpreting that things will go wrong before they actually have. It's making you confront that aspect about yourself, and that is encouraging ongoing change and growth throughout the year, because you think about this judgment moment and you say to yourself, well, I could have been doing this all along. And you're taking that quiet moment of reflection in order to process what has happened and what you're going to do differently going forward. And I feel like having that quiet space to reflect, for example, you could practice meditation, you could practice journaling, you could go out for more quiet walks in nature, as we discussed with that Earth Mother card in the oracle reading. Any of these things you could practice, and it would help you access a part of your mind that is able to truly reflect on these thoughts and feelings and able to fully process them. Because I think what has been missing from previous years, from 2023 or before that, for many years, might be that sense of like actual solid reflection. It could have been because you are an empathetic person, and because you are often very, very overwhelmed by your emotions and by the state of the world and by things going on. You could have sort of missed that step of self-reflection, and you could have gone straight to self-victimization or straight to self-pity with this Ten of Swords. But you have such a tremendous capacity with your empathy and with what you have learned over the years to do self-reflection. And I feel as well with this group, I think you are very much a person who understands other people very well and can kind of comprehend their motivations and why they might behave a certain way. But that could have been a step that you missed when thinking or contemplating about your own life, because you were so overwhelmed by emotions and you felt so trapped and so victimized by circumstances that you never really developed to that stage of self-reflection. Or on the other hand, it could be that you reflect too much to the point where it's just all negative self-talk and not the compassion. Like, I think you would show a lot of compassion for a friend who was going through a similar circumstance to you if they came to you and said, I'm feeling like this, or I've done this, and blah, blah, blah. I think you would talk to them so gently and really empathize with them, and I think you would be sensitive to their needs at that time. But when it comes to you, I think you are so tough on yourself, and you don't really realize that you deserve that gentle care as well. You deserve for somebody to speak to you gently and with love and with compassion, as you would with a friend or family member. So yeah, it's either you've been lacking some of that self-reflection, or the reflection isn't coming from. This is the thing with the Hermit, it's very neutral, it's very grounded energy. You could have been coming from a place when you did some form of self-reflection. You could have been coming from a place of heightened emotions, and that could have manifested in a negative way if you were in a state of anxiety or panic, or just worrying about what you've done or what you haven't done or said. Whereas this Hermit is really calling you to be neutral about it and speak to yourself as you would do with a friend or a family member, somebody who you care about. It's calling you to be more neutral and speak with balance, because we got that new moon in Libra card as well in the oracle reading, and that makes me think of somebody who is looking towards establishing that balance more. You know, that is one of Libra's superpowers, is harmony, is balance, is fairness, and you can reach that with periods of quiet contemplation and not judging yourself, not absolutely going absolutely mad at yourself for the way that you've reacted or the way that you've dealt with things in the past, or not being everything you want to be, because you are changing now. You have that capacity to change. You have more knowledge. You have more empathy. And with that being said, it then in turn allows you to embark on a new adventure. And I think this new adventure is aligned with what you consider your purpose to be. If you identify with having a purpose, and if you don't know what that purpose is yet, this Fool card is representing that there is going to be an exploration of that in the upcoming year, and that with that there is going to be a lot of amazing things happening for you, because of decisions that you've made, because you were able to take control, because you were able to show these aspects of yourself that you couldn't, or you felt as though you couldn't previously. There are amazing things that are going to come out of that. The Wheel of Fortune in particular talks about decisive moments, it talks about changes of fate, it talks about luck, and I feel as though this one change that you make that starts you off on the trajectory, that is a decisive moment for you that leads you down the path of something incredibly fulfilling, something that is going to make you feel a sense of pride, a sense of accomplishment, something that is aligned with your true self and your desires, something that feels very meaningful to you. With the Ace of Wands, that speaks of a new idea, it speaks of creative spark, a new initiative, passion, spontaneity, you taking the initiative to bring an idea. Wands energy is fire energy, so that's about doing, it's about taking action, it's passionate. So this is where you will get to be in the doing stage, You're no longer in the Four of Cups contemplation, apathy energy. You are doing something and you are feeling incredibly good about it. With this Sun card, with the Queen of Pentacles, and the Eight of Pentacles and the Six of what, all of these cards indicate that you are going to feel incredibly proud of what you have accomplished. And it could be, yeah. So I'm getting really that it doesn't even have to be some massive thing. Like, let's say you're an artist, it doesn't necessarily have to be by the end of 2024, your painting will be up in a gallery and be selling for thousands and thousands of pounds. It's not necessarily that. I'm getting that this is just the beginning of what you have to offer, but the changes that you're making, those little changes add up. It's not an overnight thing, like we said, but those little changes over time transform you into somebody completely different, to the point where by the end of 2024, you might not even recognize yourself, because the way you are able to assert yourself, the way that you are able to be confident and show yourself in a way that you previously couldn't, will be so different to who you were at the start of that year. Whenever you're watching this, it's just going to be a complete different thing, and it's only the beginning. That's what I'm getting, because it's the Ace of Wands as well. So this new spark, this new idea, tapping into your creativity, tapping into that idea and bringing it forth into the world. It's only the beginning, but it's going to lead to so much fulfillment, because it's just the start of what you are capable of. The main thing for you, because of the negative self-talk, because of the lack of belief in yourself, and the prioritization of feeling accepted with other people rather than feeling accepted by yourself and doing what you want to do, that has held you back for a long time. And these cards are showing that that is no longer holding you back. At the start of the year, you might still be in this contemplation mode, you might still be in this Ten of Swords mode, but there is going to come a point where you are sick of your own BS, basically, and whatever decisions you make, whether they be small or whether they be larger, they speak to your belief in yourself, your growing belief in yourself, and that you have the capability to change things, and that you do have the capability to put things out into the world that are going to be meaningful and are going to benefit you and other people. So like Eight of Coins and the Six of Wands, it could be that what you have done so far, because you have been putting yourself down for so long and not believing that you are capable of greater things, it could be that you haven't really felt proud of a lot of things that you've done. You haven't actually sat with yourself and had a conversation with yourself of like, well, I achieved this, and I'm proud of that for XYZ reason. It could be that you have had achievements, but you haven't taken that time to reflect on how those achievements have made you feel, because you've been so trapped and exhausted by adhering to other people's expectations, and perhaps moving straight on to the next thing because you're trying to live up to a certain standard. You always felt othered, you always felt like you didn't belong. So maybe you were so focused on trying to establish that sense of belonging that you didn't really ever take the time to feel proud of yourself. But with this Eight of Coins, what it's saying is that you are mastering something that truly feels meaningful. It doesn't necessarily have to be a job. It could just be a hobby, but something that you create in whatever format you feel able to create. Something is going to make you feel very, very, very proud of yourself, maybe for the first time in your life, if you aren't the kind of person who sits back and thinks about your accomplishments. And as well with the Six of Wands, that makes me feel like you feel this sense of being rewarded. And it could be, So the Six of Wands can be about acclaim and being rewarded. It can be about being rewarded, but with the two girls either side of the girl holding the cup, it makes me feel like you are being seen and recognized, potentially by, I suppose how you would word it, like a soul tribe. You are being seen by somebody who recognizes your efforts. They know what you were trying to do with what you were trying to create. And just that recognition, when you previously have never felt a sense of recognition or belonging, just somebody saying to you that they understand you, they hear you, they relate to the thing that you have put out in the world, it's giving you such a sense of pride, and it's making you feel as though this happened for a reason, and that you had to put this out there for a reason, because you wanted to reach people and feel that sense of belonging, because when you feel that sense of belonging is when you feel most like you. And it starts you off again on this trajectory of what else can I do? And if I've proven that I can do this, then yeah, what else can we go on to now? This was just a small thing, we're just getting started, but what else? What else can I do? What else am I capable of? I feel like you are only just discovering what you are capable of. And it starts with the little steps of putting yourself into the world, putting your voice, your art out there, creating something that is very meaningful to you and apparently to others, because people are going to recognize you. People are going to see this as a success, and you are going to feel successful following this. And I think the most beautiful energy of this reading is the Queen of Pentacles and the Sun card, because we were talking in your oracle reading, we spoke a little bit about the fifth house and Leo energy, and accessing that sense of self-confidence and that sense of connecting with your inner child. I think what you are putting forth into the world will connect you with your inner child. It will make you feel, first of all, this will be the place where you shine, where you finally feel as though you are the most authentic version of yourself. But not only that, it will connect you with your inner child in the sense of this is what you feel as though this is what you were meant to be doing all along. I don't know whether it's can necessarily be called a calling, but you are wondering why you didn't do it sooner, is what I'm getting, because it is just you. What you are doing it embodies you, and it makes your inner child extremely happy, and it makes them feel more comfortable than what they ever thought would be possible. Because again, you might not have ever been a person who thought that you could put yourself out into the world like that, and this is proof that you can and that you will, and that not only that, but you putting yourself out there into the world enables you to access this Queen of Coins / Queen of Pentacles energy. So when we talk about the Queen of Pentacles, she is all about balance, and again that refers back to like when we spoke a little bit about people pleasing in your oracle reading, and how you might have forefronted other people's needs before your own. The Queen of Coins is the opposite of that energy, in the sense that she is generous, she is nurturing, but she's also stable. She has that sense of balance. She is very much aware about how much she can give to other people, but also she is about nurturing herself. And I think that is something very, very important that you are learning this year. I think that is something that you are continuously learning, and something that will help you grow into embodying this energy. She has her boundaries. She just has an idea of how much she can give, but it's not about being over generous or giving too much. And again, I feel like that is a big focus for you if you do struggle with people pleasing. And it could be that, like, you use this hermit energy, you use this ability to retreat inwards to establish boundaries. So like if you were somebody, we spoke a little bit in the oracle reading about you might be somebody who surrounds yourself with people in order to always feel stimulated, if you think that you require that. this hermit could be you stepping back and actually saying like, no, you don't want to go to XYZ social event, you want to have a night to yourself and actually enjoying it, which I think might be a big step for you. If you are somebody overstimulated, you don't have to be. Like, if you are already introverted, it could just refer to you not necessarily like you being not afraid to sit in silence with yourself, and not being distracted by your shows, your games, your books, just sitting with yourself and having a moment of deep reflection or contemplation. That is what that could refer to. Overall, I am very impressed with what has come out, because again, there is so much major arcana, and it looks like it's going to be a very exciting year for you, where you discover more about yourself than ever before, and that will ultimately allow you to step into your power in the upcoming year and the years to come. With that, group one, I am going to leave you. Oh, actually, one thing I'll just do before we go is I'll read out as a bit of guidance to end the reading with. I'll go back because I realised that I didn't read this out. I realised I didn't read the am I communicating my needs card out. I want to just read what's on the back for a bit of closing guidance. So it says, your needs matter. What are you needing right now that you haven't communicated? What are you afraid of? Is it possible that what you are fearing is not true? Today's soul action, journal these answers. What are my needs? Am I saying no and yes enough based on my desires? Am I telling my full truth? Do I believe that my needs matter, and do I share them with others? Do I ask for what I want when communicating my needs? What am I resisting, and with whom? What do I need in order to feel safe enough to express my needs? So I feel like this sums up your reading so incredibly well. So this card is basically just a reminder that your needs do matter, and that your fear of communication could potentially be from an internalized fear or your own projection. It might not necessarily be that people are going to respond badly to you communicating your needs. In fact, they probably aren't, and if they're worthwhile, they definitely aren't. So it's asking you to really sit and consider, what are you afraid of? And if it is rejection, or if it is somebody dismissing you, what aspect of you needs healing to make you so fearful of that? Where does that come from? It's really compelling you to go inwards, to go into that hermit energy and consider those things. And also, it says to journal. So I think we mentioned about journaling before, and that is really something that could benefit you. It could be that in the past you have been so in a place of emotional turmoil, let's say that you might not have had the capacity to journal, but it could be that if you experience those sort of intense emotions in the moment, if you are not able to journal in that moment, you could do it when you are in a more neutral place the next day, and you could go through all those thoughts and feelings then, and really reflect on it, really have the time to reflect on it, rather than just being in that intense emotional state and then kind of surpassing it without really reflecting on why those emotions came up or what they were trying to tell you. And with the am I saying no and yes enough based on my desires? Again, this is telling you to think about what you really want. If you are saying yes to things that you don't actually want to say yes to due to fear of rejection or fear of loss in some way, it's calling you to ask yourself why that might be the case. And also calling you, yes, to communicate your needs with others. That is literally what it's saying. Because people can't be expected to read your mind, you have to communicate your desires. Yes, people can respond any way that they choose to your requests, but they don't know unless you tell them. So you have to take that initial action to be truthful, to show that authentic side of yourself. and that in turn, you stepping into your power in terms of you asking for things and communicating your needs will then in turn help you create the art that you want to put into the world, and will help you feel this sense of pride and accomplishment because you are stepping into the true version of you. Yes, and with that said, that is it for pile 1. I really hope you enjoyed the reading. I hope at least one little bit of it resonated for you. If any of it resonated at all, please let me know in the comments. I would love to hear about your experience or about whether any of it resonated. So yeah, thank you very much for listening to this, and thank you very much if you decide to support my channel in any way. I really, really appreciate it. So thanks again and take care. Hi, pile number 2, welcome to your reading. If you picked this yellow crystal heart stone, this is your reading. So I'm going to go straight ahead and get into the energy check and the oracle cards. I'm going to also roll the astro dice so we can get a little bit of confirmation from that as well. So I'm going to go ahead and get into that. The only thing that I will say, how your pile, and bear in mind, I'm getting to grips still with doing tarot readings. This is very new to me, so I'm sorry if each pile isn't exactly the same. I'm trying to make it similar, or at least in the same kind of format, but please be patient with me. I will just say that more oracle cards came out. Again, these have been pre-shuffled and more oracle cards came out in pile number two's reading. At first I wasn't sure whether to, it was like a couple of cards came out at the same time and I wasn't sure whether to put them back or not. In the end, I decided that they must have come out for a reason and I therefore decided to keep them in the reading. So that's what I've done, in case you are wondering why if you glance at multiple piles or for whatever reason you also resonated with pile number 1 and you look at that, if you're wondering why there are more cards that came out in this reading, that is why. I was just called to keep them there. Anyway, without going on further about that, let's have a look at your cards. So we'll see what we've got. Check the energy. Okay, so I've got number 24, bamboo mushroom fertility. I've got unblock. From the same oracle deck, I've got luck. So those two came out together. I've got night. We've got forgiveness. And we've got loss. And again, these two are from the same oracle deck and they also came out together and I was called to leave them in. I've got, am I getting enough rest to restore my energy and fully show up to my life? We've got step out of your comfort zone, North Node. I've got, I hope I'm pronouncing this right, pyrokinesis, debate, rage, revolution, and attention. And from the same oracle deck, we have closing circle, pure intent, sacred doors, timing, experience. And again, these two came out together. And I didn't know which one to put back, so I didn't. The next one is number 12, connect with fire. And then I have got number 26, feather, think first before you judge. And then we have clarity, carrot. Okay, so those are the cards. Like I said, you have a few more than pile 1. I'm sorry, I didn't mention all the numbers on these cards. If there are any synchronicities that I notice, I will mention the numbers. Okay, so the overarching energy that I'm getting with this pile is that you are somebody who has lived a lot of life within a short space of time, and you have a lot of experience behind you, regardless of age. Age has nothing to do with it. You are somebody who has been through significant life-changing events within a relatively short space of time or for your age. If we are taking age into consideration, it could be that for your age, you have experienced many things that your peers have not necessarily experienced. This could be in the form of an actual physical loss or just another hardship, something that you have had to endure and learn from that perhaps other people in your age group, again, if we're bearing in my age in mind, aren't necessarily subjected to or perhaps haven't had to learn yet. Certain life lessons have been thrust upon you, and you have therefore had to learn to forgive a lot more than the average person. I think you are someone who has recently been through what some people might call a dark night of the soul with this Knight card. I feel like you are somebody who has been through significant upheaval recently, and that is where this lost card is coming from. That is where this forgiveness has had to take place, or perhaps in some cases is still taking place. If you are not quite at that stage, or in 2023, potentially you haven't quite been at that stage where you feel able to forgive either yourself or the situation, the circumstance that you have been subjected to. You might be somebody who is at the end of their tether and actually has a lot of internal rage at the injustice of these certain situations. And this was maybe something that hadn't come out before. This was maybe something that was buried deep down, and it's only recently reached a peak where you are actually confronting that rage and those strong emotions, facing up to the reality of what has happened to you and also the choices you've made, because although we are out of control with certain aspects of our life, we don't control what other people think or say or do. We do control ourselves, and there is an element here of you being angry with yourself for making the choice to be in certain situations that you were in. And I think it's important at this stage that we don't place blame anywhere. It's not about placing blame, but it's about acknowledging what we would like to do differently in the future. And I feel like that is something that you are coming to terms with and something you are receiving clarity. And this is something that you are actively thinking about, actively considering. And it's something that's going to help you step out of your comfort zone. We've got with this North Node. So there is something that is destined for you, something that will help you channel this rage into a more positive light. But perhaps you are struggling to gain access to that, and perhaps because you have so very recently been through these dark times, perhaps you don't quite feel able to overcome that in the current state, and that is why you're seeking clarity, you're seeking answers on how you can do that. The overall sense that I am getting is that potentially you are someone who had at one point in your life a clear intention for how you wanted your life to go, what the trajectory of your life was going to be, and how you were going to complete each step. You might have had a to-do list of, like, for example, I'm going to have this career by this age, or I'm going to be married by this age, I'm going to have a child by this age, and something has happened that has made you almost like a tower moment. Something in the recent past has come crashing down, and that idea, that plan that you had set in stone for your life that seemed so immovable has completely shifted. It's collapsed essentially from underneath you, and you've been uprooted, and you've had to confront all these underlying feelings of rage, all the underlying issues that you were suppressing. You've been faced with a loss. It could be a loss of that identity that you associated with these plans that you had in your mind of how your life was going to go. It could be a loss of your own identity in that sense. or it could be an actual physical loss. And I'm inclined not to. No, I will mention it actually because the card is coming up. So we have the bamboo mushroom fertility card. Now, this can be more metaphorical. It doesn't have to represent children or a child, but it could do for some people. If you are a parent, if you were hoping to be a parent and that didn't happen, if fertility, as in actual biological fertility, has been a struggle for you at one point and that has caused you a great deal of grief and stress, it could refer to that. And again, to experience something like, and I am so sorry if that has happened to you. And again, that's not going to resonate with everyone. So if it doesn't, please, don't take that. That's only going to be for a small subsection of people. But I feel as though experiencing something like that and having to go through that would really make you confront your identity. Because if you are a person who, it was always in your mind to have a family and you wanted to do that in a very traditional way, and you associated your sense of worth with the ability to procreate, that could really affect you. That could throw up in the air everything that you ever thought about yourself, everything that you thought about how your life would go. Not to mention the fact that, that can have a massive impact on our interpersonal relationships as well. If you are part of a couple and, for example, if you are planning to have a child together, and one person is struggling with fertility, there can be a sort of build-up of resentment and a build-up of emotions on either side, or one person feeling unnecessarily guilty for something that's totally out of their control. But it can cause that sort of blockage in communication. And again, with this unblock card, it feels like there has been a blockage in you being able to express yourself. If that issue doesn't resonate, then please don't take it. That is only going to be for a very small percentage of people watching, if anyone is even watching. But whatever has happened, regardless of whether it's fertility, regardless if it's another issue, your life hasn't gone to plan. And now there is this sense of pent-up frustration regarding this and a sense of, where do we go from here? But there is still a lot of healing taking place. I don't feel like we are fully out of it yet. So if that is your energy and you are somebody who is currently feeling as though you are in the midst of this loss, this anger, then this is definitely your pile, because I am feeling that very strongly. I'm feeling as though this is something that you have gone through very recently and you are still currently going through. It could be that some of your relationships, whether that be a romantic partner, whether it be somebody at work or friendships, it feels like there has been a relationship that has broken down recently. And again, you feel that sense of loss. And maybe you're still angry at yourself and the person. Maybe that's where the forgiveness comes into play. Maybe you are still harboring resentment over whatever situation in your life has been thrown up in the air and created all this chaos, because it does feel very chaotic. However, with all these very fiery cards, and if you notice, there is a lot of orange, there's a lot of fiery energy, and like oranges and yellows, it's all kind of over here. Like, so I don't know, the colour shift, and this wasn't intentional, but just the colour shift, if you notice with the cards, it's like these are the more beige, they're beautiful cards, but very beige in terms of colour palette. And then over here, the sort of like neutral white, dark night of the soul, and then it goes to like these purples and oranges and this vibrancy. And I feel like that is you coming out of this healing. That is you having done your healing and on the journey to something better. And if you still have a lot of anger, which I'm feeling as though you do, you are looking for ways to try and channel it into something better, into something that makes the world better, and something that makes you feel brighter. And it's like you've got this spark to rediscover the part of yourself that potentially you had lost a long time ago, because you might have had, I get the sense that you are somebody who has desires deep down that you don't even know about at this current stage in your life. And that sounds very strange. For some of you, you could have been very sure that your life was going to go one way, and therefore any other aspects that did not align with that particular lifestyle or with the person that you think that that lifestyle will correspond to, and anything else was shut down. You didn't even think about it because you were so set on this one goal of, you know, achieving that life that you had in mind, that you ignored the actual things you wanted or that you wanted at one point in favor of just sticking to this one rigid goal and having that in mind and being quite immovable on it. You could be somebody who, once you set your mind to something, you will go after it. And there will be nothing stopping you once you get that thing in your head. It is complete. You are dedicated to it, and you could feel angry at the fact that you have dedicated so much time into this one thing, but you feel angry that you've dedicated so much time to that, and it is amounted to you still feeling this sense of loss and in some ways feeling like you have failed. But that said, the amazing thing about somebody like you with so much passion, who has so much drive, who has so much will to be able to commit to a goal, is that you can redirect and channel that energy into something better and focus on something else. And you have the follow through more than anyone else to actually do it, because you're putting passion and you're putting emotion behind it in a way that other people might not be able to do. You've had all this life experience, you have dealt with things that other people haven't had to deal with, and you can speak on it, you can communicate using anger and channeling it into something that is worthwhile, is what I'm feeling. So it could be that in this upcoming year, you're discovering things about yourself that you didn't know. And it could be that you are establishing a whole new identity. So, for example, if you've been stuck in this mentality of, I can't do X, Y, and Z because by that stage in my life, I'm going to have to be in one place because I'm going to have a family. If that option has been taken away from you, again, just one example, but if that option has been taken away from you, everything's been thrown up in the air, your relationship has broken down because of it, you are suffering a terrible loss, but it opens the doorway to new opportunity. And I'm not sure if you are quite at that stage of taking that on board and fully accepting it, because I feel like there is still some anger and still a lot of emotions here, but you are getting there. You are redirecting and you are rediscovering these aspects of yourself. Things that you didn't even know that you liked, things that you didn't even know you could participate in. That is going to be it for you in the coming year, especially with things like this card where it says debate, rage, revolution, and attention. You could be bringing things to light. You could be speaking on topics that you have the life experience for, but you had previously never spoken on, because you hadn't gone through what you've gone through, and now you can speak on it. Debate also makes me think of like maybe you are physically going to a protest to participate in a worthy cause. Maybe you are advocating for a group of people. Maybe you are doing something, some kind of charity work or some endeavour that involves sticking up for people and channeling your rage into advocacy. And it doesn't even have to be, let's say you're not feeling quite that angry, but you want to rediscover a new part of yourself and you want to be more involved in practices that are important to you and causes that are important to you. It could be, for example, you might identify as pansexual, let's say, but let's say you are a woman and you've been in a heterosexual relationship with a man for the past 10 years. So you didn't feel like you were able to fully explore that side of yourself. And now, let's say that relationship has broken down, it's ended, it's come with a lot of loss, but now you are able, when you feel ready, you are able to explore your sexuality more and more. So for example, you could be like going to gay pride and going to like the parades there and really getting involved with that aspect of your identity that previously you might have thought like you're never going to get the opportunity to do that. And you're getting this opportunity that is coming for you. That is something that the cards are saying is in store for you in 2024. There's so many fiery cards, but literally number 12, connect with fire. This again makes me think of like, not protesting, but like, I don't know, like chanting. I don't know if that's the right word, but it makes me think of a group of people coming together and their values are aligned and they're going to speak loudly and proudly about it. And they're coming together to voice their opinions. They're coming together to bring people together, but also to voice something that the world needs to hear. And as well, like, I don't know I just read out Connect with Fire then, that's why I kind of got off tangent a little bit. Because I just got the image of like, I don't know why, but like a plane with like jet fuel, like fire coming out of the jet, whatever you call them. I can't think of the word. But that makes me think of travel. Maybe you are having the experience to travel and to take on a new adventure, and previously you didn't have that due to the situation that I don't want to say you were trapped in, because it was your choice to be in that situation, and at one point or another it was what you wanted for yourself. So I don't think you should feel guilty for staying in any kind of situation if that does resonate, but to a degree it was blocking a certain aspect of you that needed to come out. And I feel like in 2024 the way you are stepping into your power is essentially having that clarity and exploring those sides of yourself that you weren't able to previously. I really feel that that is something that's happening for you. As well, like a couple of the cards that I haven't really spoken about much, but are quite positive really, could be you advocating for yourself. Like on this card where it says, am I getting enough rest to restore my energy and fully show up to my life? And with all the rage cards, it makes me think that you are talking about the injustice in a certain situation, and it could be something that's happened to you. And one example that springs to mind, and again, like if you do not have children, or if you do not want children, this specific example might not resonate with you, but it can be applied to multiple situations. So just take whatever you're feeling. But one example could be, you know how often if a dad looks after their child, it's referred to as babysitting, whereas if a mother does it, it's just expected, like it's just a part of life, she just gets on with it. One example could be like you showing the injustice of that situation, of people sort of babying dads as parents, and sort of saying, oh, they're just babysitting or they're helping out when it's their child, but people ignore the labor, both emotional and physical, that women do and are expected to do on a day-to-day basis. And often, their energy is depleted, but they are just expected to get on with it, and for their efforts to not be recognized. Again, if you are a mother, you might feel that hits home for you, but you don't have to be a mother. It could just be, the expectations generally placed on women if you identify as being a woman. If not, whichever way resonates, expectations that are placed on you, you could be really considering the injustice of those expectations and getting angry about it and voicing that anger in a constructive way. It makes me think of like journalism, writing articles, speaking about the discrepancies in certain areas, and injustices of life like that. That could be something that is aligned and very much out of your comfort zone. It could be out of your comfort zone to do anything like that. It might have not been something that you had time to do previously, and now you are finding yourself, if your relationship has recently broken down or your circumstances have changed, you could have found yourself with more time to be able to explore these aspects, or just more desire to want to explore these aspects. And again, with the feather card, think before you judge. You might feel a little bit ashamed that at one point in your life, when you didn't have all the experiences you do now, I don't want to say that you were judgmental of other people, but you couldn't comprehend everybody's circumstance. For example, you might have had a particular view about divorce or something like that. You could have said, you can't ever imagine yourself getting divorced. Once you're with somebody, you're with them and that's it. Those could have been your views that were quite fixed until perhaps you experience some turmoil in your marriage or in your relationships, if that applies, and it made you reconsider everything and it flipped those views on their head. So you are getting a lot of new perspective based on these experiences that you have gone through. It is giving you a lot of perspective, and I feel as though like you are being called more to empower and support other women, because I'm looking at the women on this card. They are literally, they're levitating her, but they are lifting her up, they are supporting her. And that just makes me think of women supporting women. It could be that you join a community of women supporting women. So yeah, I feel like this upcoming year, how you're going to step into your power is by letting go and forgiving what has now passed, gaining some new perspective and insight on what is to come in the future, and using the power with this closing circle, using the power of your own experiences, the power of timing, the power that this healing will have to really align with who you are meant to be, and stepping out of your comfort zone, because that will in turn give you a lot of luck, a lot of good fortune. So yeah, that is what I'm getting from the oracle cards. We're just going to finish this portion of the reading by doing the astro dice. So I'll do that now, and then after that we're going to move on to your tarot cards. Okay, so let me roll the dice. Okay, we've got Cancer, we've got 4th house, and we've got Mercury. I had to check, I am pretty sure that that's Mercury. A lot of the symbols do look quite similar. But yeah, this really resonates with your reading. Firstly, Cancer, and the 4th house. Okay, so the 4th house, that makes me think of roots and home, and it makes me think of this upheaval in your home life, that has led to this period of healing and this period of self-discovery. And Mercury, that is literally, the planet of communication. So Virgo energy could be important. Gemini energy could be significant as well. Again, it doesn't have to be, but that is just the energy that you are going to be embodying. It's about communication. It could relate to you sending your message out to the world. It could relate to you channeling that rage, that anger into a powerful source. It could be written forms of communication, it could be verbal, it could be debate, it could be protest, it could be journaling, it could be poetry, it could be channeling this experience of loss, whatever you have had recently that has made you feel this way. Eventually, it could be channeling those experiences into some form of communication that people will really connect with. That is what I'm getting. And also with the Cancer. So, Cancer is, a very feminine, very motherly, nurturing energy in that sense. And Cancer, as I'm not saying this about Cancer sun signs, I'm not talking about any particular placement, I'm talking about the archetype of that sign in general. So, Cancer energy, for the most part, is very comfortable being a homebody, is comfortable taking on that nurturing or motherly sort of role. But on the shadow side, Cancer can cling to things that no longer serves it. Cancer can be stuck in their emotions and their feelings and prioritize their emotions over logic at certain points, which again could relate to whatever situation you have found yourself in as of recently. You could have been clinging on to something before you had this tower moment, and then when the tower came crumbling down, it made you realize just how much you have been clinging on unnecessarily to something that is no longer serving you. And again, with that homebody kind of energy, it's where we're comfortable. It might be where that energy is comfortable, but it's not necessarily the energy that is for our highest selves, for our highest good. And again, I feel like you are going to be leaving comfort to go on this journey of discovery, and you are going to be communicating, you are going to be using communication in order to do that. So instead of you, and as well, like Gemini and Virgo, signs associated with Mercury are very logical signs. So it could be that you are actually thinking logically about what you want and how you can channel all these intense emotions into a creative outlet. So that is something that you're going to be doing in this upcoming year. That is the energy check, and we're going to move along now into the tarot. Hi, it is editing me here, and I just wanted to add on a couple more examples for pile 2 because I realise that the example regarding fertility again might not apply to everyone. And when I was looking back at the footage, there were a couple more examples that came to mind regarding what this upheaval could refer to. And I just wanted the opportunity to communicate that with you so that if you feel like some of these examples resonate more with your situation, that is confirmation and clarification for you. So when I was reviewing the footage and I was looking at the cards again, the overarching feeling that I got and a phrase that kept springing to mind was that you might be somebody who feels like you have been sold a dream in some way. And again, this doesn't necessarily have to relate to the situation of having fertility issues. It could also relate to a relationship generally. It could relate to a career. So in relation to a career, it could relate to the fact that, for example, you might have dedicated a good portion of your life so far to following this career path, and for whatever reason, it hasn't turned out as what you thought it would be like. It could be that that is due to your own expectations of what you thought it would be like, and in actual fact, the reality is different. Or it could be that somebody has literally sold you a dream in relation to that job. So, for example, you could have committed yourself to getting certain qualifications based on the idea of what this job or this career entails, and you could have been told by somebody that you would be doing XYZ role, and then it turns out that when you have actually gone into that job, you've gone down that career path, you are actually having to do other things. You are having to do entirely different things, maybe things that you are not getting compensated enough for in a material sense, maybe things that you know, it was just sold to you as something different than what it turned out to be. And it could be as though you feel you've invested a lot into this particular role and you don't know where to go from here, because it almost feels as though you've been lied to. You've been sort of led down the garden path with what this role entails, and then the discrepancy between what you've been told and what it actually turned out to be. It could be that you have moved a long way from home, you've uprooted your life to follow this certain path. It could be that you spent a great deal of time applying for this role or chasing up a promotion in order to try and get where you wanted to be, and the situation you've ended up in is not where you wanted to be. But even if it's not something as drastic as moving or uprooting your life in that sense, it just feels as though whatever you have been pursuing it feels like it's been for nothing, and it feels like you've invested in this particular thing for a long time. And to a degree, you feel like whatever it is has in some way wasted your time and you do not really know where to go from here. And you are therefore feeling a lot of anger for that. Again, it could be anger directed towards yourself, in the sense that you thought you could do this career because it was one thing and it turns out you were wrong about that. However, it could be, you know, anger towards a supervisor or somebody who has misled you, somebody who has told you, almost scammed you in a way into taking this particular path, into getting involved in something that, you know, perhaps sounded too good to be true, and then it did turn out that it was too good to be true. It could be anger towards them, and it could be sort of forgiving yourself for having fallen for that scam, if you would like to call it that, or it could be anger at that person for involving you in something that has turned out to be not what you thought it would be. It could be that the person who has encouraged you to go for this career and lured you in with certain promises hasn't been able to deliver on those promises. It could be that they have offered you a certain amount of money and that hasn't materialised, despite the fact that you've set out, you've worked very hard to accomplish this goal, and you have accomplished everything you set your sights on. You've done what they've said. Perhaps this financial reward hasn't materialised, or any other reward that they have offered. Basically, regardless of what your situation is, the strong message that I'm getting is that for whatever reason, in whatever situation, in whatever circumstance, somebody has promised you something and it hasn't been delivered, or you have promised yourself something and it hasn't been delivered, and that is why you are feeling very angry and frustrated by the situation, and there is a lot of internal rage you are experiencing. Even if this doesn't relate to something where you have actually had to physically uproot and you have changed a lot of your life to adapt to this certain path that you wanted to go down, even if it's not that, it could just be that you have had to reassess your wants and desires, because when you set out down this path, you thought to yourself, I would feel happy and I would be fulfilled if I did X, Y, Z. But that hasn't been the case. Maybe you have accomplished all the things you set out to accomplish, and maybe everything has been successful in that sense, but you still don't feel this sense of fulfillment and happiness that you thought you would feel by this stage in your life. And perhaps that has made you want to reflect. You've been very angry that, you know, you've done everything that you set out for yourself and you still don't feel this sense of accomplishment. You perhaps don't feel a sense of pride. You don't feel the way that you thought you would after having done this. And perhaps that is making you reflect on what's going on internally. And maybe that's making you think about certain emotions and certain desires that you have potentially repressed. And you're really reassessing what could make you happy and what could set you on that path where you are feeling more fulfilled. Again, if this is in relation to some kind of relationship or some kind of partnership, I'm just going to touch on that again briefly with one or two examples, because I realise that, you know, when I was filming the video, a lot of my examples were quite woman-centric, and I don't want it to be that way. Unfortunately, I was quite drawn in by the visuals of the cards, and therefore that made me focus a lot of my energy towards women's issues. But I want this to be something that everyone can relate to and that everyone can get something from. So I just want to give a couple of examples that to me are more gender neutral. So if this is in reference to a relationship or partnership, it could be, again, that you had a certain idea in your mind of how you wanted your life to go, and perhaps you met somebody in the past with that same set of ideas. This could be anything you want. Let's say that you are a person who wants to adhere to a more traditional lifestyle, in the sense that you might say to a partner, I want a household in the future where one person goes out to work and the other person is able to stay at home with the children. Or on the other hand, it could be that you have stated very clearly that you think all partners in a relationship should be contributing financially to a household, and you therefore think that both partners should have a full-time job, and if you decide to bring children into the equation, that you are both going to work and find an alternative way of providing childcare. And it could be that the person you decided to invest in and spend your life with had, in whatever format, a similar mentality to you. It could be that they agreed with that lifestyle that you thought that you both wanted for yourself. It could be that they were very enthusiastic about this, that they said that's what they wanted all their life as well, and they were happy to meet somebody with similar values and a similar mindset. And it could be that when you ended up in the situation of being in a relationship with this person or some kind of partnership, and you decided to have children or something like that, it could be that the narrative flipped and this situation turned out to be not what you expected. It could be either that that person went back on the values they expressed in some way, or it just was not what you expected. So in the first example, if somebody has stated to a partner that they want that more traditional lifestyle and they want to be the person who stays at home with the child, and the partner has been very enthusiastic about that, perhaps the partner has said something like, yes, they want to be the provider, they want to give their partner the opportunity to stay at home, they think that would be really beneficial for the child, etc. They couldn't be more thrilled with the idea of doing that. It could be that a lot of time, a lot of energy has been invested into that partner with the idea that you both have a similar mentality and you both have the same desire for what you want your life to be like. But then in reality, this dream has not materialized. So for example, it could be that you decide to have a child together, and once the child is born and one person stays at home with that child, it could be that there is a lot of resentment coming from that other party. They suddenly decide that actually they don't want to financially support partner A and the child. They accuse partner A of being lazy, of not providing. They accuse partner A of relying on them too much, even though that's what both people said that they wanted initially. They might start controlling finances. They might have previously promised that they would be the type of person to spoil partner A, or that they would never go without financially. And then when they have been placed in the situation where they have to follow through with that, they could have taken it away and then become very controlling with finances. They might have even deprived partner A of essential necessities or made them feel really bad for asking for their basic needs to be met. Or on the flip side, if this is a situation where potentially both parties have decided to return to work relatively quickly following having a child, it could be that one partner, despite being on the same page initially, it could be that one partner suddenly decides that they think somebody should be at home with the child. And it could be that one partner resents the other for making that decision to go back to work. And it could be that that creates a lot of communication issues. It could also be that one partner sold the other a dream in the sense of their beliefs versus their actions, something like that. So for example, when these two people met, assuming that, it's two people in a monogamous relationship, let's say, these two people met and their views were both very aligned. It could be a moral issue of some kind. It could just be a general belief, a religious belief, a spiritual belief, anything like that. or just a general belief about humanity in some way. Let's say you both identify as liberal and you have very liberal views. But in the example of domestic labour, let's talk about that for a moment. Let's say the two of you meet and you have a discussion about domestic labour, and one partner reassures the other that they would never be the type of person to allow their partner to carry the household and carry all the domestic labour. They might say something like, I can't understand people who complain about their partners nagging them to do more household chores. I would never be that type of person. I'm always more than willing to help. I want to make my partner feel supported and feel validated. They could very much express those views, and both of you feel like you are on the same page with that. You feel like you have made a wise decision in investing in this person and choosing to go forward with them and potentially start a family if that's what you wanted to do. And then it could be that it turns out when you do move in with this person, you invest in them, you've spent a long time with them, you decide to have a family with them, it could be that this is flipped and they don't practice what they preach. So, they could quite easily become the type of person who feels as though, or who complains about being nagged when you ask them to do basic household chores or when you ask them for support. It could be that they turn into somebody, in any case, completely different to what they presented initially, and this makes you feel as though you have invested in the wrong person, you have made a wrong choice in some way. It makes you feel like you have failed because you never expected to be in this position. You perhaps, looked at other couples who maybe rushed things a little bit. If this is a romantic relationship we're talking about, you might have looked at other couples who rushed into things or got married quickly or had a child quickly, and their relationship might have broke down due to incompatibility in some way, and you might have looked at them and at a certain point thought, well, I've really thought things through with my person, that won't happen with me and them. They are this type of person. I've took the chance to get to know them, so I know that they are this one way. And again, you've become quite fixated on that idea of who they are. So you have thought that wouldn't happen to you, and it has, and that has made you angry that you didn't see this about this person sooner. It makes you angry at any red flags you could have potentially ignored during the dating process. And it just makes you feel as though you've wasted a lot of time and energy into something that didn't turn out to be fulfilling in that way. And now it's like you're having to reassess and start again from scratch in whatever situation you have ended up in. And again, I realise that some people might interpret that example as somewhat of a gendered issue because there is a lot of talk about women's unpaid labour in domestic relationships. However, this could be in relation to anything. So for example, if you are a man or you identify as a dad, if you are a parent, it could be that the person you get into a relationship with and have a child with, they might have said something during the initial stages of dating, like they would never be the type of person to deny a father access to their child unnecessarily. They might have really expressed a lot of hostility towards people who do that, and they might have promised that they would never be that type of person, that they find that behaviour disgusting, that would never be them. And therefore you felt safe to have a child with this person, knowing that they would never do something like that. And then it turns out that they've gone back on their word in that sense. Perhaps something has happened in your relationship, it's broken down, and they are leveraging your child and the access to your child and you seeing them. It could even be something like that. Again, whichever situation applies. And the bit that I spoke about in relation to advocacy, again, this doesn't just have to be women's groups. It does not have to be women's groups at all. It could be any community of people who feel this sense of injustice in some way and like they have been led down the garden path, like they have been fed a lie, like they have been promised something and it's not been delivered. It can apply to any situation like that, and the community, it doesn't necessarily have to be at a protest or something out in the external world. It could be building a community online, seeking solace from people in a forum like Reddit or something like that. Obviously, with Reddit, you do have to be careful of not getting too deep into echo chambers and only hearing one point of view. So be mindful of that if you are sort of establishing a connection with those kinds of communities. But it could be very, very helpful to know that there are other people out there who share your experience, and it could be very, very empowering to hear their side of things as well and know that there is somebody else out there like you who has also gone through a similar thing. It can really help in the sense of mental health and also having more empathy for other people's situations, and also having a deeper understanding that, you know, if you have found yourself in one of these situations, it doesn't make you dumb. Please don't ever feel like you have been stupid, because this makes you realize, you know, establishing those connections with other people who have had a similar experience, it will hopefully make you realize that this can happen to anyone. There might have been a time previously when you thought that these things only happen to people who rush into things and they don't think things through, and you have always prided yourself on thinking things through and being very dedicated and passionate about one particular path. And when you have found yourself in that situation where things have gone wrong for you, and you're looking back and thinking, you know, well, I thought that I did everything right, so how have I ended up in this situation? It could be then that you are battling a lot of self-worth issues, and you are thinking that maybe this has something to do with your intelligence or a lack thereof, but it does not at all. Again, I think you will be realizing in the upcoming year that harboring anger for yourself is not a worthwhile cause. I think you will be channeling energy into an actual worthwhile cause, whether it's raising awareness about other people who have experienced, you know, a similar situation. I just think that you will be coming to the realization that this hasn't happened to you because you were a bad person. It hasn't happened to you due to one particular thing. That it is just a lesson, and that although you have experienced a lot of hardship and although this has been incredibly painful, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have done one particular thing wrong. It doesn't mean that you've done anything incorrectly. It means you are a person who is learning, who is experiencing life. It means you are a person who had courage and who had a lot of bravery to commit wholeheartedly to a path. And just because it hasn't worked out, that does not say anything about you as a person. If anything, it has allowed you to build and grow and develop as a person. It is not something to look back on with hostility, although I know you will be feeling that way at this present moment. And if it is something that has happened recently, you might be feeling that you can only ever view it through the lens of hostility. But I'm telling you that this does not reflect on you as a person, and I'm telling you that there will be a lot of growth to come out of this situation. And also, I just want to express that in regards to relationships and you and a partner having discussions about your wants and desires for the future, I realise that everybody is on their own individual journey, and people are allowed to change their mind on things. People are allowed to reassess. People are allowed to change and to want to do things differently. And especially with things like having a child, because although you can plan what things might be like when that child enters the world, you might not necessarily know which plan. If you've never done it before, if you are a first-time parent, if you've never had that experience, you might not know how that is going to go, and you might need to reassess things like parenting styles and like who's going to stay at home and who's going to go out to work. But you need to work together as a team if you are part of a partnership. So I'm not saying that just because somebody has changed their mind or somebody suggests that you should do things in a slightly different way to what you had originally planned, I'm not saying that that's a bad thing or that they deserve to be penalised for that. I'm just saying that as a partnership, as a couple, you need to work as a team, and it doesn't seem like in your circumstance that has happened. It seems as though this promise that has been made to you and that has been broken, the other person involved, if there is anybody else involved, has just flipped. It has been a 180, and they have sort of said my way or the highway, and they haven't even tried to make any kind of compromise. It comes across more that way than just, you know, two people having a mutual discussion and deciding to compromise and go down a different route. In some instances, it could be that if you are in a relationship and both of you have changed to a great extent, it could be that you have tried to make it work and that you have tried to compromise. I'm not saying that, the partner who you've been in a relationship with is necessarily a bad person. In some instances, I'm sure that you and whoever you have been dealing with, you have tried to make this compromise, but you have realised that you are on two completely different pages. You have realised that you have changed so much than what you were originally that it is just not going to work and that you are now incompatible. And although you don't necessarily blame that other person in the instance that they have tried to compromise with you, although you don't directly blame that person for having changed, presuming that they have tried to make some kind of compromise with you, you are still left feeling bereft by the loss of that person who they were originally, even if it wasn't intentional that they changed, even if it wasn't intentional that you changed. You still feel like you have invested so much time in that person. You thought that you would be on the same page with them forever. You were aware that you would learn and grow things along the way, but you didn't realise that things would end in the way they have. You didn't realise that you would be so different. This could apply if you, for example, have been in a relationship with the same person since your late teens or early 20s. People do a lot of changing and developing in their 20s. I'm pretty sure that the brain only fully develops once you are 25. So perhaps that time has passed, or you are getting to that age where your brain is fully developed. You have realised, you and your partner, that you have changed so much that you are no longer compatible with each other, and that has led to this breakup. And again, it's not that you are directly trying to blame this person, but you do feel rage at the time that you think has been lost. You feel anger at the fact you have invested so much time into this and it hasn't amounted to very much at all. But I just want you to know that we learn things from all our relationships, whether it be friendship or a partnership in whatever way, in a romantic way, our business partnerships. There is something that we can take from all of those situations. So I don't ever want you to think like whatever has happened has been a waste. It might feel like that right now when you are feeling a little bit directionless and like you don't know where to go from here, when you feel like there is still so much of yourself to discover that perhaps has been blocked for a long time. But it is not a waste. You will have taken something from that and it has helped your growth. Even if that is something that you are not seeing right now, I am telling you that it has, and that you will see that one day, and that could be a way that you are potentially stepping into your power in the upcoming year. Hi Pile 2, welcome to the tarot portion of your reading. If you have listened to the energy check and if you have listened to the oracle reading, I'm going to assume that at least one thing within that reading resonated with you, and now we are going to move on and look at your tarot cards. So let's have a look what we've got. Okay, we have got 7 of coins in reverse. 7 of coins in reverse. We have got the 5 of cups upright. The tower. The tower. The moon. Justice. Seven of Swords. 6 of Cups. 2 of Wands. The High Priestess. 3 of Cups. Knight of Wands. And the King of Coins. Okay, so notably, the only card that was in reverse was the 7 of Coins, which isn't surprising, bearing in mind the oracle reading and the energy that was kind of coming to the forefront there. That is not entirely a surprise. Also, the Tower coming out, I know the Tower can be a very scary card, but also in this circumstance, knowing what you know, having experience, your experience, I think you were expecting this, and I was expecting this, and based on the oracle reading, I wasn't happy that the Tower came out, but I felt validated in what I had said in the oracle reading, and I was certainly not surprised that this energy is also coming through in the tarot. And I think in this situation, it is not telling you anything that you don't already know. That is the thing. You already know that this was coming. The tower moment has happened. The Tower moment has already happened. You know this. So it's just clarifying. It's just clarity that yes, this situation has happened. Yes, I am feeling this way. What are we going to do about it now? How are we proceeding with that information? So yeah. Okay, so in regards to the Five of Cups, it's not surprising that this came out within your reading. The Five of Cups symbolises grief. It represents loss, sadness. Again, like you can see it on the cards, the cups have spilled over. Chaos has reigned. Emotional turmoil is going on. That is happening. There is a sense of loss. Again, these are all things you have already been through. These are things that you have already experienced. This is just confirmation that that has occurred and that you are now shifting out of that energy. And again, like with the Seven of Coins / Pentacles in reverse, that can kind of speak of this sense of a lack of growth. It can speak of unfinished business. It can talk about setbacks. You feel, based on whatever has happened in the recent past, that something has been left unfinished. You are on track. You are on one trajectory, going in one direction, and that situation has been removed completely from your life. There has been upheaval. You have been taken away. That particular path that you had your mind set on isn't even an option anymore. And you feel this sense of unfinished business. You feel, or you felt at one point or another, like this constituted a lack of growth, and that meant that you had failed. You were in this sense of mourning of everything that was left unfinished, everything that you feel as though you have lost. And again, things have come crashing down on you with this Tower. And if you are, based on the oracle reading we did, where I was still sensing that there could be some anger and perhaps some forgiveness that needs to take place between either you and yourself, or you and another person, whoever might be involved in this situation, or whatever is involved in this situation, perhaps some forgiveness needs to take place still. With this Tower, I get the sense, again, it's referring back to that Cancer energy when we did the astro dice and the energy check-in. It's about clinging on to comfort. The Tower, let's say the Tower is your home. You do not want to leave your home. You do not want to flee that building. You do not want to leave this Tower, but the Tower is literally crumbling. The Tower's crumbling. So you can either get off and go in a new direction, or you can go down with it and you can be at the bottom of all the rubble, scrambling. And I don't know where I was going with that analogy, but what I'm saying is the Tower is a moment that needs to happen. It needs to happen in order for you to be able to be aligned with your true self and who you want to be and who you are meant to be. And with this Moon card, I feel as though, with the Moon and the High Priestess, actually, I feel as though you had certain emotional needs that you didn't even know about until this moment happened. Perhaps the things that you wanted had been buried so deep within your subconscious that you were not altogether aware until this situation came to light and offered you a new perspective. You could have been experiencing let's say this tower moment refers to a breakdown in your relationship. This could have been coming for a while. The turmoil could have been going on for a while. The mourning could have been going on whilst you were still in that situation, whether it's a relationship, whether it's a dead-end job. It is a situation that wasn't serving you. It could even be a family relationship that was going on, and it was causing you a lot of inner conflict. You could have had clues in the form of dreams that came to you in the months leading up to this tower moment, the moment of ultimate upheaval and destruction, something crashing down. You could have had almost like subconscious warnings, subconscious feelings that something wasn't right. You sensed that something wasn't right, and you could have been going through that mourning period even before the relationship or the job, whatever it is, even before it officially came to an end, because you could sense that the part of you that felt happy and fulfilled in whatever this situation was has gone. It had already gone, maybe even before it officially ended. So there was this sense of loss and sense of feeling a lack of growth even before, it came to its official end. And the moon, it could symbolize that, you had been feeling that for a while. Perhaps you were, because the moon talks a lot about our subconscious feelings, it could be something that, again, you had buried deep and that you weren't really ready to acknowledge, because your path is so set on this thing that you want to achieve, this lifestyle that you want to eventually live up to. So it could be that you were burying that deep down. You didn't want to think about the fact that it's no longer aligned with you or what you deeply desire, or the person who you're connecting with is no longer, this connection is no longer serving you. That might not have been something that you were willing to really come to terms with until now, until things have come crashing down and you are able to get this new perspective. So a way you are stepping into your power this year is you were finally able to see things for what they are. With this High Priestess, you are tapping more into your intuition. You had a feeling, I would say, for a long time that in this situation, before the tower moment, something wasn't right, and you were suppressing that feeling. But now your perspective and your knowledge based on this experience has now allowed you to see that you can tap into your intuition, that you can trust it. There was a reason that you were feeling so unsettled. There was a reason that there was this feeling of grief even before there was anything really substantial to grieve over, anything in the material world to grieve over. Your body, your dreams, your brain, your gut was telling you that there was something not right. So a way you are stepping into your power this year is that deeper sense of knowing and trusting yourself, like trusting your inner self and that they know best. Just to briefly touch on the Seven of Swords in relation to the other energy that I was referring to with the moon and the suppression of emotions. The Seven of Swords can sometimes represent lies and trickery. Now, it could be that in whatever situation you were in, if it's with another person, it could feel as though you have been lied to or you have been tricked in some way. You were lulled into a false sense of security or a false narrative regarding what your life should be or what it is going to be like. You could feel like you have been sold a dream that you will feel fulfilled when you reach A or B point, and then for whatever reason that hasn't happened and there has been this loss. Equally, there could also be a sense of you almost lying to yourself, and because you are so fixated and because you have been so fixated on reaching this one particular goal and having your life play out one certain way, you have ignored the parts of you that are desperately calling to be heard. And I feel like these are parts of you that are now just starting to come to the surface. Again, regardless of what age you are, it feels as though you are just discovering some parts of yourself that you had never previously discovered. And that is a way that you are stepping into your power this year, is by realizing that there is so much more opportunity for discovery, for growth. Whatever has happened here, this is not the end. It's not the end of your circumstance. You have so much to learn. There are so many things that you can be. And with all this fire energy as well, the things that we were getting within the oracle reading, that indicates to me that you are one of the few people who really do have the drive to go after what you want and to discover these new things and to learn again a new way of being, and to feel okay with that, to feel okay with admitting to yourself that it's okay to let go, and that whatever has happened here, that gave you experience, but you do not have to hold on to it unnecessarily. It's learning that you can start your life again, and that this does not have to be the end, and that one setback, things not going entirely to plan, whether it's a smaller thing or whether it's a larger thing, something not going to plan, it doesn't mean your life is over. It doesn't mean that your growth comes to a halt. Your growth is always happening, and your growth will continue to happen this year, and that is another way that you will access this power in the coming year. So let's talk about the Six of Cups just for a minute, because honestly, I feel like this is a really beautiful card for this to have come out in this particular reading is important. And the reason being, Six of Cups is often associated with a sense of nostalgia. It can be in relation to being stuck in the past. It's about sentimentality, memories, reflecting on past times. But in the card, when she thinks about these memories, she is happy. She has a lot of emotions regarding these situations, but she is smiling. She is looking back on those situations with fondness. And I think with a lot of healing, that could be how you look back. Not necessarily, I'm not saying you will look at this tower moment with fondness. And I said in my oracle reading as well, you have lived many lives within just one lifetime. And I feel like in this upcoming year, there will come a time when, I don't want to say when your healing is finished, because healing never really finishes, but there will come a time when you feel healed enough to look back at whatever life experience you have previously had. So potentially your previous relationship or your previous place of employment, you will be able to look at it with fond memories, and you will be able to have that perspective that whilst it is what you wanted at the time, it's what was serving you, it's what felt good, that you have moved on, but you can still look back at it with that sense of nostalgia and that sense of happiness. And that is something that, perhaps in this current stage, if you are still feeling angry by what has happened, you might feel as though that will never take place, because maybe you are still in that energy of, not quite forgiving what has happened. But that I'm saying that will happen, and that will help you channel some of your energy, some of your drive and passion into more fulfilling projects, rather than ruminating and being stuck in the past and stuck in anger at people from your past or the past version of you. I think you being able to look back at the positive outcomes you were able to get from whichever connection you were in, or whatever situation you were in, that is going to be so substantial to your growth. That is going to really help you persevere, remain resilient, and be in your power within this upcoming year. And maybe, once you are at that Six of Cups stage, you might feel as though you can start making plans and making those first steps towards the future version of you, the person who you are aligned with and who you would like to be. That is what I am sensing with the Two of Wands. It's about taking those little baby steps into a new adventure. As you can see, she's got the world in her hands, And the world is yours, is what this is saying to me. The world is yours to explore. All these different facets of humanity and of the human experience are yours for the taking. And these are things you might have thought you would have never had access to. They weren't for you because your life was meant to be a particular way, but they are for you. And there are so many new discoveries, powerful discoveries that you will be having this year, which will spur you on to try and meet new goals and establish a new identity for yourself that doesn't revolve around this past version of you who has been and gone. You can show respect to that person. You can thank that person for everything that they have shown you and the lessons you have learned. But ultimately, you are going out on a new journey and making those first steps. And that is something to be very proud of, and something that I think will be very prevalent in the upcoming year. Again, with the High Priestess, I feel as though this is something that's going to be very aligned with your journey, your ultimate fulfillment and desire. I feel like it is something that you are called to intuitively. And again, it could have been something that you perhaps had an interest in growing up, but you thought you would never have the time to explore it because, you know, you had these deadlines of I have to be doing this by this age and I have to be doing that by that age. Now that has been thrown up in the air, you don't have any deadlines to adhere to. You are just listening to your intuition and prioritizing that above, you know, an arbitrary timeline. So that is what I'm getting with that. With the Three of Cups, this speaks to your oracle reading, you know, when we were talking about women empowering other women and things like that. This makes me think that you are going to be meeting so many new people. There are going to be so many more causes for celebration this year. You are going to be part of a community. You are going to be contributing to a worthwhile cause, and you are going to be working with other people or other institutions to do so. The Three of Cups, like, it does tend to symbolize, you know, celebratory events, people having a good time, sometimes people drinking. I know the cups, sometimes the Three of Cups can symbolize in a romantic context, like three people, or, you know, a threesome or something like that. I'm not saying that is the case for your particular reading. I am thinking of it more in a collaboration sense with other people, socializing with people who are part of your quote soul tribe, people who you identify with and resonate with, and you feel their values are aligned with yours, people who you are so happy and so emotional to have met. But I don't know, like, again, if you have just got out of a relationship and you then feel ready to explore your sexuality in some way, who knows, maybe it is a threesome. I'm, you know, never say never. I don't know, and if that is the case, then good for you. But I'm feeling as though it relates more strongly to this sense of purpose and this sense of meeting people who have similar desires to you, but not just desires, have like a similar, just have a way of expressing themselves that you really respect, and they have a mutual respect for you. Again, whoever it is, it doesn't have to be women. I'm saying women because it is women on the card, and I am quite visual, so I'm just going off that. But again, if you don't identify as being a woman, then take it as it resonates with your gender identity. Because the reading is for everyone. So yes, that is what I am getting with the cards. Also, okay, the Knight of Wands, again, Wands energy, it's very fiery energy, it's very passionate, it's driven. The Knight, I mean, he's more than a page, but he's not quite at the level of being a king. He has not mastered this courageous energy yet, but he is doing something courageous and stepping into his power. He is putting his voice out there, And I feel like that is something you are doing by collaborating with this community, by listening to your intuition, by making those first steps, and by having a fond having fond sentiments about your past and trying to look at your past through a lens of lessons learned rather than resentment, or rather than this sense of inner turmoil. He is stepping into his power by doing that. I think sometimes, obviously the Knight of Wands, this card didn't come out reversed or anything like that. I think sometimes with the Knight of Wands, you would have to be cautious of the way a message is delivered. Sometimes it can be interpreted as a little bit volatile, or, you know, at times aggressive, because there is so much fiery energy. So I would give you the advice that, you know, when you are trying to communicate a message, make sure that it is coming from a place a place where you are feeling balanced emotionally. It is okay to feel emotions, it is okay to feel angry, but make sure you are not taking that anger out on other people. It is more than okay to showcase your voice, especially if it's something you are doing for the first time and, you know, you are going out of your comfort zone. But just bear in mind that you can do that in a way that is balanced and is respectful of other people. If you are a bit of a blunt person, I don't think you should necessarily have to dim your light in any way. But we are so lucky that we live in an age of being able to edit things. So if you are, for example, sharing your message online, just know that that can always be edited. You know, if you are in a fiery, passionate debate, and it is something that you want to put online, you want to share your voice, you want to share your message, do that, and don't dim yourself. But just when you are looking back, and when you are out of that place of heightened emotions, and when you are reviewing the footage, let's say, regarding the thing you've spoken about, when you are doing that, make sure that everything you are saying comes from a place of love and not a place of anger, because sometimes it can be easy for the two to get confused, especially when you are so emotionally invested in a topic. However, I feel like your emotional investment in the topic will play to your strengths. People will be able to feel your passion. People will be able to feel that this is something you genuinely care about and want to advocate for. They'll be able to sense that this is your calling in a way, and that you are stepping into your power by being that courageous leader in a way. Okay, and you know, I was talking about, okay, so the Knight of Wands, he's a bit better than a page, but he's not quite a king. And I was kind of putting him down a little bit, but I completely forgot that the last card that I haven't spoken about, I think it's the last card anyway. Oh no, we've got Justice as well, right? I've missed 2 cards out, so I'll just go into these other cards. We've got Justice and the King of Coins. So the King of Coins, right, can we just talk about these, how beautiful these cards are and how balanced these images look. It's like a balance between femininity and masculinity, and I feel like that is something you are finding within yourself, and that is a way you are stepping into your power this year, is by discovering those 2 sides of yourself. Maybe at one point, maybe when you felt trapped in these circumstances where you were experiencing loss, maybe you weren't that true version of yourself, and maybe there was whether I don't know whether it was your masculine or your feminine energy, if you like align with either or both. Again, that isn't in relation to gender, that's just an energy. Maybe there was a part of one of those energies that was lacking and you felt out of balance. And I feel like these 2 cards just symbolize that a way you are stepping into your power is by aligning yourself with that sense of balance. So by, you know, listening to your intuition and doing all these things, collaborating, putting your best foot forward, being courageous, there will be a sense of justice brought to the situation. There is going to come a point in these upcoming years, I don't know whether it will be 2024, again, this is timeless, so just take it as and when it resonates, but there is going to come a point where you feel satisfied that there has been a just outcome in your life. So at one point you felt, you felt mournful, you felt trapped by this tower moment, this situation. You didn't feel like yourself. But when things start to align, you will really feel as though harmony and justice has been brought to this situation. You will feel in your element and like, this is the place where I was supposed to be. That is what I'm sensing with that Justice card. And King of Coins, aka the King of Pentacles, that talks about abundance. It talks about prosperity, security, ambition. The King of Pentacles, he is incredibly kind. He's an incredibly safe person, archetype, shall I say. And abundance, this doesn't necessarily relate to financial abundance, although that could very well be the case. You could absolutely monetize these gifts, this passion that you have, if that is a route you wanted to go down. However, I'm just saying that I don't necessarily think that is the most important thing for everyone. And given what you have gone through in the recent past, I wouldn't be surprised if you are somebody who isn't necessarily concerned about material wealth. That material wealth could absolutely be yours if you want it. You could use these gifts that you have to try and achieve that. And I think that you are somebody who could do it if you set your mind to it. But I'm just thinking more along the lines of, you might just feel right now like your only goal is to feel happy again, to feel more of this sense of balance that you once felt that you had. And now, like, if you are currently still feeling a little bit off kilter or not like yourself, you are just hoping to get back in a timeline where you feel happy, where you feel fulfilled. But abundance can mean many things, and abundance for you, it could refer, rather than any material wealth, it could refer to that sense of stability, that sense of security, that sense of being back in balance, of things being right, and of you being aligned with the correct path, even if it's a path that was so unexpected because of this tower moment. It could have been something that was very unexpected. That is the only way to describe the tower. You didn't ever envision that your life would be this way, but the only thing that I can say is that you're happy that it is this way, and that is something right now that you might not believe, but that is what I am seeing in your cards for the upcoming year. I'm just going to close this reading with a last little bit of advice from the Soul Truth Oracle. So this was the card you got in the Oracle reading, but we didn't read the back. So I'm just going to read the back as a last little bit of advice. So this was the card that said, am I getting enough rest to restore my energy and fully show up to my life? And it says on the back, you are the asset. This body is your vehicle. Notice how your body is feeling, how much sleep you are getting, and what you can do to help your body rest. Today's soul action: take a bath, put on some lavender essential oil, go to bed ridiculously early, or give yourself a time out today. Notice your body thanking you. Today's mantra: the more I give myself permission to rest, the more I can contribute. So I feel as though that is very important for you to rest during this time. You are somebody, I can tell, who has had a lot of sleepless nights as of recently for very many reasons, which I'm sure you know about all too well. So with that being said, I feel like in this upcoming year, another way you are going to be stepping into your power is by restoring that energy. It's by getting enough rest and making sure you are replenished and not feeling guilty, not staying up at night thinking about things, wondering what you should do, potentially having nightmares. I'm not saying that you'll never have a nightmare again. Random things just happen when we're asleep. But I feel as though your nightmares won't be because of your real life situation, because you are stuck in a past version of you that is no longer serving you. I feel as though you're going to be resting, you're going to be nourishing yourself, you're going to be looking after yourself a lot more and doing calming things, because you have unfortunately experienced a lot of anger, a lot of pent-up anger, a lot of frustration due to whichever circumstance you have been put in the recent past. and I feel like that needs to be fully cleared in order to access this healing energy. And the first step of doing that, something that you can do now, if you can't do anything else, just do the one thing. Yeah, if you can only do one thing, just do one thing. Take a bath, drink a glass of water, just focus on the one thing and having the energy to do that one thing, because although you can't do everything all at once, you can do that one thing to try and make yourself feel better if you are still experiencing these raw emotions, because again, you know, that's not something that's going to be healed overnight, but I do see that it will be healed, and that is one of the many ways that you will become powerful in this upcoming year. So thank you very much for listening to that, pile 2. I hope at least one thing resonated with you. If one thing did resonate, please let me know, and thank you so much for supporting my channel. And yeah, if you want to tell me anything, please comment it below. But thank you very much for listening, and take care, and I'll see you in the next one. Welcome, pile 3. If you picked this pink heart crystal, this is your reading. We are going to go straight in with the energy check and an oracle reading, followed by the tarot after that. So I'm just going to go straight into it. All right, so first things first, we have number 17, Ghost Mushroom Shine. We have number 50, Trickery. Oh, you got one extra card as well. So we have number 1, Abundance, from the same Urban Crow Oracle deck. We have Direction. We have 31, Look to the Stars. We have To Whom Am I Comparing Myself Right Now? We have Flowers, Be Honest with Yourself, number 17. Did we have another number 17? Yeah. Ooh, so number 17, or the age of 17, might be significant for some people in this upcoming reading. But let's see what else we've got. We've got Songbirds, and that says Hexbreaker, Sound Healing, Final Goodbye, Release. We have Courage, Time, number 13. Oh, we have another number 17. Number 17, Freedom. And A Time for Healing, Balsamic Moon. I don't know what the balsamic moon is, I'm not gonna lie. It just makes me think of balsamic vinegar, and I don't think that's what it's talking about. But I'm just gonna pop that down there. And yeah, we're gonna have a little chat about the message that I'm getting from this oracle selection. Okay, so right away, the thing that is standing out to me is the Ghost Mushroom card. I'm pretty sure that that is the only card in that particular oracle deck with a black background, and obviously you've got these fluorescent green mushrooms, symbolic of a ghost or a phantom of some kind. And it makes me feel like there's certain aspects of you that are almost phantom-like in nature, almost like you can't quite reach out and touch you. Nobody can quite put their finger on who you are. You might be somebody who is quite mysterious, but with that, you have no choice but to shine. You are somebody who stands out to a lot of people without trying, but everybody has their own interpretation of who you are. You are many different things to many different people. I can really sense that. You have a different persona for each person who you interact with, and I don't think that that is a conscious thing. I don't think that you are being fake. I think there are just many different versions of you, and you also have a lot of people who tend to project their interpretation of what you might be like without truly knowing you. So therefore you become this almost like unattainable entity something that isn't quite concrete. It's almost like you don't exist in the real world because people have so many interpretations of what you are and what you aren't, and there are so many, like, it's almost like you're a tale of folklore in that sense. Like, there is so much lore behind you, but nobody really knows the real you. And I think sometimes this is something that makes you struggle to identify who you actually are as a person. Maybe it's something that up until now you haven't had much of an opportunity to really consider. Maybe you are somebody who's always just gone along. You've been quite placid with whatever version of you somebody has decided um to give you. To If somebody says that you are one thing, maybe you realize that that is who they need you to be, and you have sort of adapted to that way of being, not necessarily to please that person, but just because you are a very multifaceted person, and you are capable of being many things. And maybe you don't have an identity that is set in stone in the same ways that some people have. Maybe you have a lot of different viewpoints. I feel as though you are somebody who sees many sides to a situation. You're not a black and white thinker. You're not necessarily very rigid. You're not that fixed in your ways. You're somebody who can see the multifaceted nature of the human experience, and people realize that about you when they meet you. But sometimes people project their fantasy of what they want you to be like onto you, and then for whatever reason, sometimes this can lead to you internalizing that and feeling like you have misled people, like you have tricked them with this trickery card, and that it is your fault that they have taken you one way, when really, it's not that you aren't the way that you have presented, but it's just that there are many different sides of you, and sometimes certain sides only come out when somebody has got to know you for a longer period of time. And people might turn around and be shocked that you behave one way and then another way a few months down the line. But then these are all still versions of you. It's not that you were being fake about anything. You weren't lying. You weren't hiding anything from them. It's just that they decided in their head what you were going to be. But that was just an illusion. It was just a phantom. It wasn't the real you. And again, after, sort of, if you have like a relationship that's ended or a friendship that's ended, it sort of makes you reassess who you are. And maybe that's something that you are still struggling with, and you haven't necessarily come to a conclusion on who you are. You still feel like there is a certain aspect of you that's a little bit guilty for feeling like you are tricking people, even when that's not intentional and not even the case. It is not your fault if people project onto you. It's giving me like mutable sign energy. It is also giving me like Neptune in first house or something like that. You don't have to have that placement, but if you do, that is something to consider, because that is a placement that very many people project onto. But yeah, that is what I'm getting with those couple of cards. And with the abundance card, again, with saying, I don't think people always acknowledge this multifaceted nature of yours as a gift, but the fact that you can be so many things to so many different people is a gift within itself, because you have the ability to connect people. You have that ability, like I said earlier, to not always see things just in black and white. You can see the grey areas in between, and you can get people with two opposing viewpoints to a place where they are able to have a civil conversation, because you are able to have a civil conversation with all of those people. And don't get me wrong, if somebody is, spouting absolutely awful views, it's not that I think that you would like agree with them. For example, if somebody is being like racist or sexist or homophobic or something, it's not like you're going to sit back and allow that to happen. It's just that you can understand why certain people have the viewpoints they do, and instead of approaching it with anger, you can approach it in a way that makes them question themselves and their beliefs. I feel like you are somebody who makes people question things a lot. You are somebody who elicits that reaction out of people. But I think you can sort of hold up a mirror to people. And again, this comes back to people's projections onto you. It could be that, you know, when people dislike you for whatever reason, you might internalize that, but really the reason they dislike you isn't to do with anything you've done. It's that you've held up a mirror to them and shown them an aspect of themselves that they don't like and that they have resentment towards, and they have taken it out on you when actually, in reality, it has nothing to do with you at all. Again, like I feel like you do project, well, people project that onto you, and you are a mirror. You are like a receptacle for people's opinions sometimes, whether they're positive or whether they're negative. You do make people question things, and you certainly make people provoke a reaction in people, whether that be positive or negative. And again, like, I don't get the sense, I don't think you're somebody who is in people's faces, like making them question things or like sitting them down and forcing them to have a conversation with you. I think people gravitate towards you. People want to establish connections with you. People want to have conversations with you. And I don't think this is something that you're not attention seeking in any way. That's not your nature. I actually get the sense that you're somebody who's potentially quite placid, and on the surface, and you might be surprised to hear that, but on the surface, you look quite calm or like go with the flow, and you might actually have a lot of internal anxiety. But on the surface, I'm saying this is how you can come across to people. You are very go with the flow, and people might interpret it as quite nonchalant, or you just go in whatever direction the wind takes you, sort of thing. But I feel as though because of people's projections onto you, and people thinking you're this way, somebody thinks you're this way, and another person thinks you are a completely different way, I feel like that might have given you a bit of a complex internally and a little bit of a scrambled sense of identity. And again, this might not be something that's obvious from an outside lens. People might view you as not necessarily an overconfident person, but somebody who appears to be quite comfortable in their own skin. But under the surface, you do not necessarily feel that way. You feel as though you don't really know yourself. You can't really see yourself with clarity. Like, you are this ghost even to you, and it's difficult to put a finger on who you actually are. In some situations, it can make you feel quite directionless. To some degree, you could feel as though whichever stage you are at in life, wherever you are up to in a career, it could be that you have this sense of having just gone along with whatever was happening at the time. So you could have fallen into a career and never really established whether or not this is your actual passion, whether it's something you genuinely want to pursue, because again, that sense of identity is a little bit lost. You can't quite get to grips with it. So at this stage you're at in your life now, you could really be contemplating this sense of direction or the feeling of directionlessness. You could be feeling a little bit lost, and it could be taking you quite a bit of courage to explore your sense of identity, because there's almost a part of you that is like, how have I got this far and I don't really know who I am yet? There's a part of you that feels like you should know, that you should have it all figured out. I just want to tell you that exploring your identity, it is an endless process. It's an ongoing process, and you have this amazing ability, like I say, to be so multifaceted, to be able to do so many different things and be so many different things, that your search for identity will probably never end. And that is a good thing. That will work to your benefit. That is not to your detriment. That is a very special thing about you. And that is how you stand out and how you can showcase your power, your ability to be all these things to all these different people. That is something to be admired. It's not necessarily something that says you don't know yourself. I think there are still things that you have to learn about yourself, that you are discovering, and that hopefully you will discover in the upcoming year. And I think that is a way that you will step into your power. But equally, it is not just like a journey that, oh, like this is who I am, I'm done now. Like, you are somebody who has, I sense, like a thirst for knowledge and a thirst to keep learning. You could be actually like Mercury ruled. You could have prominent Gemini or Virgo placements in your chart. And you don't have to. I just get this sense with you that you have a very distinct balance between your logical side and your emotional side, and that you can see both sides. I guess Libra as well could play a part, an air sign generally. You can see many different sides of a situation. Again, that doesn't have to be the case. If none of those signs resonate, if they're not prominent in your chart, please ignore it. That's just the energy that I'm getting from the overall cards. Like, that's the overarching theme, and that's just what I'm feeling. But you have the capacity to go on this endless journey of self-discovery and to never get tired of wanting to learn more and wanting to see different points of view, and, you know, have that knowledge, have that thirst quenched by ongoing knowledge. You will never stop learning. And I think that's a really, really powerful thing, and something hopefully you will carry with you in the upcoming years and continue to do. And hopefully that will help you find your sense of purpose and establish who you are. Or I think as well, it's about realizing that who you are, again, I mean, it's like I kind of said already, so I don't mean to repeat myself, but who you are isn't this set in stone thing. Who you are can always be evolving, and it's about recognizing that and understanding that your ability to go with the flow is actually incredibly helpful in situations where you are debating what to do with your life, because you already have so many skills, and you probably don't realize all the knowledge and all the skills you've accumulated over the years just by having such a broad mindset, and just being like, by being able to communicate and identify with so many different groups of people. You already have a lot of knowledge that you don't even think about. And your ability to utilize that knowledge will be a way that you step into your power and establish this sense of freedom. I just feel like there was a point in your life where perhaps you've ended up in a situation where you don't necessarily know where to go from here, or you feel a bit lost or at a crossroads, because you're like, how did I get there? How did I get from A to B? You never really had a specific set in stone plan of where you were going. And I think this next year will be about you realizing that that is okay, as long as you continually reflect on whether you are happy with where you are. And if you aren't, again, not placing blame on yourself, but realizing how you can proceed forward with, you know, love and care and respect for yourself, and by trying to reach that freedom through this courage. I feel as though, as well, with the courage card, it is making me think that potentially you will be getting the more of the ability in the upcoming year to stick up for yourself more in regards to other people. I'm not saying that you don't necessarily stick up for yourself, or that you've been bullied in the past or anything like that. I mean, you might have been, but I'm not necessarily saying that has to be the case. I'm just saying that because of all these projections that people have about you, some assumptions could have been made. You could be somebody who rumours are spread about or have been spread about in the past. And for the most part, because you come across as quite a passive, in many ways, person, it's not that you can't stick up for yourself. It's just that you think it's not worth it. Like, I've got better things to be doing. And that's the thing, you do have better things to be doing, because you have so many different interests. You are very versatile, and you do have better things to be doing. So maybe you've just sort of brushed that off, and you've been like, well, you know, they think that about me, but that's okay. But I think secretly a part of you has internalized some of those thoughts and some of those assumptions that other people have made, and it has got you questioning. Like, it has got you scared to truly find out who you are, because you are scared that a part of them could be right, and they aren't. I think you need to know that, is that they aren't necessarily right. Again, there is no set in stone version of you. And whatever version of you are in the present, you have free will to change any time. That is important to understand. And people are always going to interpret you in different ways, and you can't internalize what other people think about you, because if you think you don't know you, then they know you even less. They are approaching you from a place of their own insecurity, their own lack, their own life experience. And, it isn't necessarily the truth of the situation. And I think you need to free yourself from other people's interpretations of how you are, because it does not mean anything. And I don't think that it should hold you back going forward. So that is a way that you will be stepping into your power this year, is releasing other people's interpretations of how you are. And again, with the balsamic moon, it says a time for healing. So it is about you healing those self-trust issues that you might have due to this sense of a lack of direction and due to these projections that people have, and about realizing that you are so abundant and that your ability to be versatile doesn't make you fake. It doesn't make you a bad person. It doesn't make you somebody who's fickle. It makes you somebody who has a lot to offer, has a lot of different things to offer, and is very versatile in what they offer. It could be that you feel pulled in many different directions, and that because you have so many interests, they might become hyperfixations for you. So one month you are interested in gaming, and the next month you don't pick up a game and you're interested in reading. Again, those are just examples. It can be about any hobby or any special interest in particular. You might get fixated on things and then you might move on to something else, and it can make you feel, again, like this sense of not having a specific direction and feeling as though you can never stick to just one thing. But I feel this year you can step into your power by realizing that versatility is a strength, and that you don't have to do things the way that everybody else does in order to be successful. Some people are able to maintain a consistent routine in how they interact with life and the hobbies they engage in. Some people are quite happy being in the routine of doing the same thing every day for 12 months. That might not be you, and that's okay. You are still worthwhile investing in. And I think there is this sense of lack of trust, maybe because you feel as though you don't have a great deal of follow through on certain projects because you are pulled in so many different directions, that you think to yourself, well, I'm not worthy of committing. For example, if there's a project that you're really interested in, a part of you could hold back and not follow through with it because you're thinking, well, I'm not going to splash out and buy this equipment because I'll never follow through with this particular project, with this task, so there's no point in wasting money. So it's little acts like that that you don't realise are harming you in the long run because you don't think you're worthy of investing in. There is something to be said about knowing who you are, in the sense of, if you just hear about something and it's giving you a potential dopamine boost, and you know that you're in the stage of just fixating on it, but that it'll pass. But if there is something that's kind of in the back of your mind, a project that you've been interested in for many years and you have dipped in and out of, but you have never really lost interest in it, maybe you have gone through ebbs and flows of being less interested in it or more interested in it, but it has never really gone away, that might tell you that that is a fundamental part of who you are, because some interests might be fleeting interests, and that's okay. You're allowed to be interested in many different things, but other interests could be, here for the long haul, and maybe those are the things that you want to look into exploring further and investing in if you are called to do so. So again, that is another way you might step into your power. And again, it comes down to that, the flower card, be honest with yourself. It is about being honest with yourself and having that balance. It's good to be realistic in that sense. Realistically, if you say to yourself, I won't have time to complete this project during in the time frame that I'm looking at, on the one hand, it's good to be realistic in that sense, but on the other hand, it doesn't mean that same situation is going to apply to everything. And when the card says, to whom am I comparing myself right now, I feel as though you do compare your way of being and your way of exploring certain interests to other people's, and perhaps your way of thinking, your way of exploring the world just isn't as consistent as some people, and it's about learning how to adapt that to your life and how to tailor that inconsistency to your benefit, because maybe you just aren't the type of person who can do the same thing day in, day out, and that's okay. You don't need to be comparing yourself to anybody, and I already feel like you're somebody who already has a lot of internal courage because of all these interpretations that have been placed on you throughout your life. You're somebody who you've had to let it roll off you. You've had to kind of shrug your shoulders and be like, you know what, they might think that, but blah, blah, blah. So how could that not impact you? And I think it's about realizing and admitting to yourself that yes, some of these comments over time, some of people's negative comments have maybe affected you, and that could have affected your view of yourself slightly and what you are capable of. I feel like there is some self-doubt. You could sort of shrugging and being quite nonchalant and being like, well, do you know what, like I never stick to anything, so there we go. But that could just be something you are internalizing based off what other people have told you, and it might not be the truth of the situation. Yes, you might have been inconsistent with some projects up until this point, but your life is not over yet. Your life is here and now, and whatever you decide to do in the future is your choice to make alone. You can change the course of your life. You are capable of that. Just because you are somebody who may have been inconsistent in the past doesn't mean you are going to be inconsistent in every single circumstance that you encounter with every specific hobby or with your career. It does not mean that, and I don't think you should allow it to mean that. I think a way you could step into your power this year is by rechanneling that sense of I am inconsistent and turning it into something like another affirmation, like, no, I'm not inconsistent. I'm versatile and I need a different kind of stimulation from day to day, and acknowledging that that's okay and that that is as worthy and deserving of respect as somebody who is able to adhere to a strict set of rules, which maybe you are not. And I feel like this Songbirds card where it says final goodbye and release, I feel like that is you in this upcoming year stepping into your power by releasing this sense of self that is associated too much with other people's points of view. It is a version of yourself that you were maybe telling yourself, I am this way based on other people's perspectives, and it's you stepping into the person who you want to be, because that can always change, and it's about really respecting that sense of change and about continuation and development, because you are so capable of continuing to grow. So it's just about understanding that a little bit more. With a look to the stars, I think you should pull up your birth chart, not to blame anything on your stars or your star sign or any of your placements, but it could be that you are pulled in many different directions due to some oppositions that are going on in your birth chart. If you are interested in astrology and you haven't done that already, I would strongly recommend having a look at which oppositions or squares might be between planets or signs in your birth chart, because it doesn't give you an excuse, but it might give you some indication of why you struggle with this sense of duality or polarity, or just being pulled in multiple directions, this sense of not being able to be in a fixed place or in a fixed mode of being. It might give you a little bit more insight into that. We will roll the astro dice and get a little bit of clarification on your upcoming energy, and then we will get into the tarot. Okay. Pile 3. Okay, we have Leo. We have house 6. And we have Pluto. So with Pluto, I feel as though this is you stepping into your power by destroying other people's interpretations of who you are and learning to listen to yourself and transform yourself and your life in the way that you see fit, the way that you align with. Pluto very much represents death and rebirth. So again, with this, going back to the final goodbye release on the Songbirds card, this is you potentially releasing that sense of you, who you felt was, or who other people made you feel like you were tricking them or being inconsistent. That is releasing those ideas of who you are and aligning yourself with the true idea of who you are, your true self. It's about that old version dying and a new version being reborn. With Leo, that makes me feel as though you are stepping into your confidence this year, this upcoming year. Leos, I always think of being very bold and very courageous in what they do, in what they say, in who they are. I always think of them as having a very regal, self-assured presence. So it could be that you are becoming more self-assured, you are learning to trust yourself more. And with house 6, okay, house 6 is associated with routines. It's to do with work and health. So in relation to your cards, it could be that you've been trying to fit yourself into a box of having, for example, a 9 to 5 job, when really that isn't working for you. It doesn't work, and you might need to change it. You might need a bit less structure, a bit less routine in order to truly step into your power and be your true self. And it's okay to have those needs. It doesn't make you any less of a functioning human being. I feel as though this pile sometimes thinks that. They're like, oh, because I'm not the type who can continuously get up at 6 a.m. every day and adhere to like a strict skincare routine, that I am somehow a bad person, or I am unworthy of abundance or good things happening for me. I feel like you are a pile who could maybe get a little bit wrapped up internally in that mentality, but that's not true. That is not true at all. You just need to find something that works for you, a structure and routine that isn't as necessarily as strict or as rigid as the next person's, but it is your routine that you have cultivated and that helps you step into your power and become more yourself. Because the same thing isn't going to work for everyone. Like, we all have different needs in our day-to-day lives. So yeah, that is what I am getting from your oracle cards. I hope that resonated. We're going to go to the tarot portion of the reading now. Hi pile 3, welcome to the tarot portion of your reading. If you are here, I assume that the oracle reading resonated with you, or at least one thing resonated with you. And if so, here you are at the tarot reading. So we're going to go ahead and get into your tarot. We will see what we've got. Right, so we have the 7 of Wands in reverse. We have the 8 of Swords. We have 3 of Swords in reverse. We have the 9 of Swords in reverse. We have the Hierophant. We have the 2 of Coins. We have the Emperor. We have the Ace of Cups. We have the 8 of Cups. We have the Chariot. We have the Star. Let's move these along so there's room. And we have the Knight of Cups. Okay, so often when we see the 7 of Wands in the upright position, it can refer to somebody protecting their territory, defending themselves, sticking up for themselves. However, it is in the reversed position, which could indicate there is a sort of surrender. And I feel as though that plays on the energy we were speaking about within your oracle reading, and that sense that not necessarily that you wouldn't stick up for yourself, but that you let it roll off your back. And if people express negative concerns towards you or about you, you would kind of surrender to it, in the sense that you would try your best to ignore it. And you wouldn't set the record straight. I think you are a person who just didn't believe there was much point in doing that. And I completely understand that feeling of not wanting to waste valuable energy correcting other people when it is not your responsibility to do so. If they are interpreting a certain thing about you, it is not necessarily your responsibility to correct them in any way. You shouldn't have to go out of your way to do that. However, the problem it is creating, or that it has been creating within you in recent years, is that you have actually taken on board a lot of the comments that people have made about you, and you have made it part of your identity without necessarily realizing that that is what has been happening over time. And you have all these swords here, a few of which are in the reverse position. You've got the 8 of Swords, the 3 of Swords, and the 9 of Swords, the 3 of Swords and the 9 of Swords being in the reverse position. Now the 8 of Swords, all of the Swords energy is mental energy. So again, that kind of plays into the idea of you perhaps identifying with having some mercurial aspects in your chart, or potentially like mutable signs or air energy. That kind of plays into the idea that you might have some of that energy in your chart, because this is very much a mentality of being stuck in your head. And with the 8 of Swords, I'm getting the sense that you feel trapped by circumstance, and you have sort of ended up in a prison of your own making, because that is the thing with the 8 of Swords. He has the tools he needs to escape this situation, but he is choosing not to. And for you, it might not necessarily feel like a choice, because, you know, in your mind, it hasn't been a conscious decision, but these are things that you have taken on board from other people, and you have allowed them to shape your identity to the point where you now feel trapped. So for example, if people in the past have called you fickle, or they've called you flighty, or they've said that, you know, they can't rely on you to adhere to a routine or to show up on time, you have internalized that. And, you know, just one tiny example, if somebody says to you, oh, like, you're never on time, you could never show up to anything on time, it's really annoying, you have internalized that, and you've in your mind said to yourself, I'm just a person who's always going to be late, I could never be on time. That is what you are affirming to yourself, and it is trapping you in this mental prison, because you feel like you cannot change these aspects about yourself, which are totally changeable. And, you know, I realize that people have different struggles, and it might not necessarily be something as minor as showing up to a place on time, but it could apply to any example and any circumstance. It is just something that you have internalized. Other people have said that you are this way, and you have convinced yourself that you are this way, and that is something that is trapping you, and it is disempowering to you and your growth. And it is something that you need to overcome in this upcoming year in order to step forward into your power and to be your authentic self. And again, with this 3 of Swords in the reverse position, sometimes when it comes up in reversal like this, it can indicate that there is a repression of emotions. So I feel like, because you are quite a logical, or maybe an analytical person, or you're somebody who maybe tries to logic your way out of certain emotions, I feel like this is a repressed energy, and this isn't necessarily something that you are aware of on the surface. As I'm saying things to you like, oh, you have internalized what this person has said, you might be thinking, no, that's not the case. But you've taken people's opinions on board too much, and the cycle of that happening needs to end in order for you to be able to step into your true power. You need to identify those thoughts. You need to separate what is actually you and the label that has been given to you by other people. You need to learn how to do that in order to heal and recover. And with this 9 of Swords energy, I do feel as though there will be some recovery taking place, some healing. It can refer to sometimes a feeling of shame or guilt. So there could be a little bit of an aspect of you feeling guilty for having internalized this, or even ashamed, because I think on the surface, as I said in your oracle reading, I think you might present as somebody who doesn't get too wrapped up. Like, you try not to give negative energy too much of your attention. You try not to get too wrapped up on it. It might be something that you pride yourself on, is being quite laid back on the surface. There is no need to feel ashamed. What people have done towards you, what people have said about you, the way people have treated you, that's not your fault. And we all internalize things. That is, just the experience of being alive, of being a human and interacting with people. We all do internalize certain aspects of those interactions. And if people throughout your life have been giving you information essentially about who you are, and you've never really had a direction or never really truly known who you actually are, then it's difficult not to be pulled in all those multiple directions. It's difficult not to take some of that on board and for it to be carried with you. It's nothing to feel ashamed about. It happens to everyone. You could be the most confident person, but guaranteed, if somebody is repeatedly telling you something about the way you are going to internalize that. That's what happens when we live in a society and we do interact with people. So yeah, that is nothing to feel ashamed about in any way whatsoever. So the Hierophant can often refer to social groups, it can refer to conventions, it can refer to tradition, but it can also refer to education and knowledge and beliefs. And I feel like you are somebody who, as I said in your oracle reading, you actually have a lot of knowledge and a lot of different things you have learned to share with the world. And you might lack confidence in the sense that because you see yourself as somebody who is not necessarily traditional, or you might view yourself as somebody who cannot follow traditional protocols. For example, you might have felt in the past like you are not able to hold down a 9 to 5 job, you are not able to get up at 6 a.m. every day, things like that. You cannot stick to a routine. Those are things that you might have told yourself or that other people have told you. It sometimes makes you feel lesser than. Like, you never walk into a room setting out to educate people or to get people's attention, but people naturally gravitate towards you because when they get talking to you, they can sense that you are somebody who does carry a lot of knowledge and somebody who has a lot to say. Even if you do not go out of your way to announce it to an entire room of people, even if you might come across as quite introverted, you have a lot to say and you are actually very articulate. I'm not articulate, but you are actually very articulate and you can express yourself in a way where you can tell that a lot of thought and a lot of logic and a lot of analysis has been put into whatever you have to say, and that you have truly seen both sides of a situation. So I think with this, a way that you can step into your power is acknowledging that although you might not follow the conventions of other adults in your life, if you are an adult, although you might not follow those conventions, and sometimes that might make you feel lesser than, or that you are not being a functional adult, or what you think or what you expected adult life to be, you are still very worthy of expressing your views and having a discussion. You are worthy of respect. You are not any less worthy because, for example, you might be a night person rather than an early morning person, just because you don't go out on hikes at 7 a.m. in the morning and instead you are most productive at night. That doesn't mean that the person who gets up for 7 a.m. hikes is better than you, and equally, you are not better than the 7 a.m. hike person. You are both people worthy of respect, and people need to realize that about you. And I feel like a way you will stepping into your power in the upcoming year is by showcasing that, because people can make assumptions about you all they want, but ultimately, when they hear you talking about something you are knowledgeable on and something you have to share, and ways that you can express your views, they will realize that they were wrong, and that their notions of how you are, you will slap that right out of the water. because you have so much to say, and you have so many different ways of saying it. You are very versatile. And with this Two of Coins, that speaks to me about finding the sense of balance within your life. And it's not about having that all or nothing mentality, it's about trying to establish that balance and kind of keep things on an even playing field, trying not to give more attention to one thing than another. So for you in this particular reading, this could mean that you are focusing on the balance of establishing a routine when it is beneficial for you, but not making that routine a prison, not making it a source of disempowerment. Routines should be there to empower you and to make you feel better. But if you find that a routine is not working for your specific lifestyle, if you can't adhere to it, it's about not being all or nothing with it. It's about don't see yourself as unworthy because you can't adhere to this very specific, complicated routine that other people can adhere to. As I say, what works for them isn't necessarily what's going to work for you. So this Two of Coins is about finding something that is within balance, a new way of being where you can concentrate on the things you need to concentrate on and leave out anything else that is not required and not needed. The Emperor is such an amazing card to get in this reading, because to me this is about you stepping in to your leadership energy. This is about you having that self-trust, stepping into your power by establishing the self-trust and that self-belief, and the belief that you can focus and you can be disciplined if it is something that is going to be in alignment with your authentic self. So this could be you proving to yourself in this upcoming year that you can stick to something, you can have the discipline, you can lead a project or a group of people, you can stay on track and focus on a specific hobby or an endeavor that you are currently participating in. You can do that and you can see it through to its conclusion. This is you proving once and for all that other people's interpretations of you perhaps being flighty or being a certain way isn't the truth of the situation, and that even if you are in that energy of being flighty, you have the power, you have the leadership ability to change that anytime and make your life into what you would like it to be. You are not stuck. You are not in this victimization trapped mentality. You are going to be stepping into your power with leadership abilities. This in turn will send you off on a journey of more self-discovery in the upcoming year, and you are going to be, with this Eight of Cups, you are going to be walking away and abandoning those old beliefs that do not serve you, the current version of you and the version you would like to be. You are going to be walking away from the mentality that left you restricted and left you paralyzed in a sort of state of analysis paralysis and feeling directionless. You are going to let go of those aspects that were holding you back on search for the actual truth of who you are. And with that, you are going to experience so much emotional enlightenment. You are going to experience new creativity. And with the emotional enlightenment in particular, I feel like this is very empowering for you, in the sense that you might often be somebody who intellectualizes all your emotions, but this thing that you lead, this endeavor that you lead, this thing that you see to completion makes you realize something about yourself that you didn't realize previously, and that sparks an emotion, and I want to say like a newfound sense of self-love, because the Ace of Cups can sometimes represent romantic relationships, it can represent new feelings, and I feel as though perhaps for the first time ever you might be very, very proud of yourself or something that you have achieved or done. It could really make you have that sense of unconditional love for yourself and of filling your own cup up. That is what I am getting with the Ace of Cups. It's just this overflow of emotion, and it could have been a long time coming because perhaps previously you had been so blocked from that sense of self and not knowing who you were underneath. there's that discovery, but with that comes a lot of emotion. And it could even be that you have like a big cry if you are somebody who ever I mean, maybe you're not somebody who ever cries, but maybe in this circumstance this triggers a big release of emotion because you are feeling more enlightened than ever about who you are and who you want to be. And I feel like after this point, things will start to flow in for you very, very quickly. The Chariot is coming in. It's about very fast moving energy. On the shadow side, it can be quite reckless. But speaking about the more positive aspects, it can indicate willpower, discipline, focus. It can make you so laser focused on a goal. And with this endeavor where you are able to embody the archetype of the emperor, I feel like that has given you, you know, this emotional outburst and then a spare of confidence and a spare of drive to go after more of what you want, because you have suddenly realized I am a person who can actually follow through with things if I set my mind to it. And I was only telling myself, I was tricking myself, I was trapping myself by telling myself that I could not do these things when really it was here all along. I had access to it at any time, but because of other people's interpretations of who I was as a person, that is something that has been blocked from me. It isn't something I knew that I was capable of, but now I am fully capable and I am coming charging ahead. And with that, also comes the Knight of Cups energy. Again, a very, very positive energy. And I feel as though the Knight of Cups very accurately embodies, very accurately represents you. Because as I was saying, the energy that you carry with being able to see multiple sides of a situation, the Knight of Cups is somebody who is diplomatic, who can be a mediator. Again, it is about that balance, and I feel like that just articulates perfectly the kind of person that you are. And I feel like the Knight of Cups embodies who you are, in terms of being that mediator, in terms of being that diplomat, because when you are, because that is who you are when you are your most powerful. And how you step into your power is being that person who is many different things to many different people. That is not a weakness, it is a strength. And that is something, the way you articulate yourself in a way that many people can relate to, the way that you can almost shapeshift and mold yourself into whichever version you are needed to be, that is an absolute gift and it is a superpower, and it's something that not many people are capable of, and that is a way that you are going to be showcasing your power in this upcoming year. The only other card that I haven't mentioned yet is the Star, which is just an absolutely gorgeous card to get in this reading. The Star symbolizes faith, hope, inspiration. It symbolizes positivity, renewal, rejuvenation. And that is how, once you have stepped into this power, once you have realized that all the things that you have to offer and your way of being and your ability to shapeshift and change and grow, once you have realized that all that is a strength, you will feel this sense of rejuvenation, and you will use that as a tool to continue healing not only yourself but other people around you. Because of what you've experienced, you are not the type of person to put somebody down if their way of being is different to yours, because you know how that feels. So if a friend comes to you saying that they are struggling with, you know, things that maybe you have struggled, like with consistency, like with sticking to something, you know how to speak to them in a way that is diplomatic, that will make them feel emotionally seen and heard without necessarily putting them down. You will express this in a very, very healing way. And I feel like your understanding of that aspect of being is one of your superpowers, and a way that you will absolutely step into your power going forward in 2024 and beyond. I'm just going to finish up with a reading from your Soul Truth Oracle, that came out in your Oracle reading before, but we didn't read what was on the back. So the message you got is, to whom am I comparing myself right now? What you are able to see in another is only visible because it is within you, ready to be brought out. Shine light on this feeling of not enough and see the truth. All that you need and want is within you. Today's soul action is today, stop comparing and start creating. This is such an apt card for this reading. I can't think of any other way to describe it. It just sums up what we were talking about when we spoke earlier in the oracle reading about how what somebody sees in you is only visible because it's within them. So that is true for everyone. And if somebody thinks negatively of themselves, they think that if they project onto you, they say that you are untrustworthy, they say that you are unreliable, it is because they sense that there is an aspect that reflects those traits within them that is unhealed. And again, you could feel unworthy next to other people who you feel embody something that you don't have. For example, you might look at somebody with a strict routine and say that, you know, they have so much discipline. I don't have that. I could never have that. But what you need to realize is that you do have that. It is within you and it is ready to be brought out. But with the star card, it might look different. It might look more unique than the next person. You might have a very different way of doing things that other people don't do, but it works for you. And whichever way you do things doesn't make you any less worthy than the next person. And in regards to not feeling enough, yeah, it's like you feeling as though for some reason having a bit of an inferiority complex at times, maybe not acknowledging this on the surface, but feeling as though potentially you can't share your views because you're not up to a certain level as this person, but really you do have a lot of knowledge, more than you know, and you are very much worthy of being able to express that knowledge. You are not better or worse than anyone else. Nobody is better or worse than you. And again, all that you need and want is within you. You embody the traits that you want. You can embody the traits that you want and you have that capacity. So there is no point comparing yourself to other people. They are on their own journey and you are on yours. Thank you very much for listening, pile 3. I'm going to finish that reading there. Again, I really appreciate you listening. If anything resonated at all, please let me know in the comments. And thank you very much. I really appreciate you supporting my channel. And yeah, that is all. Thank you.